you know what? It occurs to me I haven't quite set this up. Yeah, all right, we're good. Well, I'm really happy that worked out perfectly. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another video. We are on part 5 of End of Dragons 1 year later. The date is January 21st, I think. It's been about a week, slightly over a week since the last part, actually. And I got a lot to talk about. This is one of those videos that, like, I got a million things that I want to say right at the start as we go in. So, obviously, normally we're playing my Vindicator. I want to show you guys some of the other characters on my account just for a second here. It's not technically going to be End of Dragons. I mean, it kind of is, but I don't know. There's a lot to say. Here you can see I'm mousing over my Mesmer. That was the last person I logged in on, who looks like Zira now. In fact, it looks even cooler in game. I'll show you guys my back piece here. So this is a bit of a weird one. I feel because over the past week, I haven't done an episode of this series, not for lack of wanting to, but just because I really wanted to do my Tomb Raider episode first. And Tomb Raider I needed to do a montage for, and then there were 2 other little things that I wanted to do, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, I really did want to get this episode out, and one of the reasons for that is it's kind of a part of the 1 year later thing. I've sort of fallen head over heels in love with this game again. My game time, my play hours over this past week have been nuts in Guild Wars. I've been playing this game way more than I think I did at any point during the Icebrood saga, for example. Through a lot of POF. I think a big part of it, first is I've just had this massive break for, you know, the greater part of a year. So and I really became very disenfranchised with the game, became very, very jaded, as I mentioned in the previous episodes of this series. But now that I've come back, I don't know, maybe just something about it got under my skin. And the thing is, I'm realizing End of Dragons is actually a lot like Heart of Thorns. This is something that we discussed a lot before the expansion came out, and conceptually I've known about, but it never quite worked just yet. And that's that they do actually have metas, obviously, for this expansion where POF did not. And so I'm back into that sort of Heart of Thornsy place right now with the game where I'm playing a ton. One, because of the metas, and there's actually a lot of repeatable stuff to do in End of Dragons, which thankfully I've finally sort of like twigging into. But second as well, as I mentioned on some of these recent episodes, you know, we got this strike mission thing going, this challenge mode strike mission thing, and it really is End of Dragons versions of raiding. Again, conceptually, we've talked about that. It's a bit like Heart of Thorns. Heart of Thorns, I was quite into the endgame PvE scene. You know, I was doing like Wing 1 through 4 very consistently and so on. And so just having that team, playing with you guys, literally the Spuds, which is something I've never done before, do like a static with guildies, or like WoodenPotatoes guildies, let me put it that way. It's just been really invigorating, and it's crazy. It's all End of Dragons content, and it's all I've been playing. It's kind of spiraled out into a ton of other stuff with the game. Here, this Mesmer, I don't know why I've got a squad join request, but this is just going to be us playing story, obviously. This Mesmer is in Heart of Thorns right now because I'm doing, like, Octavine and stuff again. I'm doing, like, daily fractals. I did, like, some casual, like, early raid wing stuff. It's all PvE as well. I've done a little bit of World versus World this week. And I did 10 games of PvP, structured PvP, just for, like, so one of the things I missed this year, over the year while I was away, is in the side stories. This happened at the New Year's anniversary. I actually didn't know this. Genuinely, I didn't know this. They added all these new achievements here, just to do some, like, world bosses, do a bit of PvP, you know, classic things, like Shadow Behemoth was on there. You know, the 3 big Tequat was not on here, which is a bit weird, I think. But like Dragon Stands on here. Anyway, there's a whole new armor set in the game called the Decade armor set, and when I do just a couple more events in Ore and Dragonfall, I'll get a cape from it. And the Decade armor set does look really good. It's a weird armor set because it looks amazing, but it has no differences, male versus female or armor class. Anyway, so I'd missed all of that. So I did a tiny bit of PvP, but that's it. The rest of it is all PvE. I've just been ludicrously invigorated by PvE. I've been going through all my characters, right? I think in the last part of this series, someone said to me, "Oh, WP, are you going to do an account tour?" In fact, I think a few of you guys in chat kept saying, "Are you going to do an account tour?" And obviously, I'd been doing those regularly. I had been so jaded by this game. I don't want to say... I mean, jaded is the right word. I've been so, like, disconnected and uninterested in this game for the majority of the last year that, you know, not making any content about it, really. At that point, at the start of this series is only five videos long so far. I was saying, no, I don't think I will. I don't think I'll ever do another one. Isn't that my response? Wasn't it in the last part I said that? I'll never do another account door? I'm sure I said that. Just because I didn't think there was really anything interesting to show on my account. You know, I obviously slipped with a lot of, you know, like gem store skins and all that kind of stuff. So, like, what was I going to show off? But I've got so hooked on the game at the moment and, like, picking up different builds and really getting back into what the PvE meta is at the moment, watching all the balance that I've missed out on, and because build templates are in the game, I've kind of like really done a lot of stuff. So right before I stopped playing like regularly, they did the Legendary Armory, and I had a lot of problems with the Legendary Armory as it came out. I still have a lot of problems with the Legendary Armory in terms of like economy and some of the like philosophies behind why they did certain things. But what I did at that point was I didn't salvage all my items. I didn't, you know, I didn't assign all my... Because I have full legendary gear. I didn't, like, assign that on all my characters. I didn't use the build template system properly. But so, sitting back down these past few days, that's what I've done. So all my characters look something like this now, right? They have, like, a visual. Okay, so this, for example, this is my quickness chrono, okay? Which I haven't really played, to be honest with you guys. Well, I have in open world, but I haven't taken it into fractals or any casual raids. I want to, because it's actually quite fun. But this is my quickness chrono. So what do we have here? We have a chrono wearing the chrono shoulders. What I want is these characters to use their actual gear, right? So it's wearing the chrono shoulders. The chrono shoulders look kind of heavy-ish. So what matches heavy? Well, the Zero helm looks very heavy, and the Zero helm is very mesmery. Zero being like one of these ultimate mesmer characters. So if we're going to go with the Zero helm, then we'll go with the Zero style. We'll put the Zero back piece on. We'll put the white mantle shield on. We'll dye it all the right color. We'll, you know, and I'm really proud of this look, okay? I think it hits the theme of Chrono. It hits the theme of mesmer. It gets one of my legendaries in there, which I don't usually use. I love the red down the side here, for example. I spent ages doing this, right? And I mean, the build's all really well set up and everything, but that's just template 1, right? Template 2, we have like an admiral type character. So this is my Alacrity Mirage. So you'll notice on the bottom template, it's Chrono. The one above is Mirage. And then the one above will be Virtuoso. So I have the 3 elite specializations set up and powerful builds set on each one with a really good visual as well. So here's my Mirage. The rule I broke with my Mirage is I don't have the Mirage like headpiece on. I couldn't find a good Desi look. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll redo it at some point. But what I do like about this is I've got like the hook hand on her. I've got the peg leg on her. I've dyed this all really carefully so the gold looks good. I've got a cape on there. I picked the Dominator staff. I don't know, maybe that one doesn't fit too well. And the Mirage axe, so I'm not using the Mirage headpiece, but so I don't know, the weapons might not fit that well. I do like the Tormented stuff though. Makes me think of Guild Wars 1. And then yeah, we got Virtuoso. Now these looks aren't so good, but here's my Power Virtuoso. Some of the utility skills I mess around with, obviously, for open world. Now, the cool combo about my Power Virtuoso is I have the Lissa back piece, very mesmery, right? But I've comboed that with the legendary PvP chest, I think it is. I have the Wild vs. Wild one as well, and its visuals, you can't, like, dye the glow. It's always blue or something, so it's a bit rough. But so when I unsheath the back piece, the Lissa back piece here, you guys might need to full screen and put the quality up. But when I unsheath, these big, like, beams of purple energy come out. Pink energy, mesmer energy come out. And it's like they're emanating from the back piece. But that's actually a combo of the chest and the back together, you see. And I thought that looked good on Virtuoso because on Virtuoso builds, I run, like, Infinite Forge, which gives me the daggers naturally. So they're always above my head. So, I don't know, all the pink kind of... I don't know. I feel like if you're going to have a really big glowy pink look... on Mesmer at the moment, do it on Virtuoso because you're kind of forced into it because of the floating blades anyway. So yeah, anyway, that's a Power Virtuoso, and then this is my Condi one, which I don't know, I need to figure out better really. This is cultural. She's like my only human female on the account. So I figured I should get a cultural look in there, you know. But I don't really know. The coolest thing about this build, this is the if anyone's looking for like a really relaxed, crazy damage, super easy build at the moment. You know, like my open world build series where I said this was before End of Dragons. Do you remember I did an open world build series where I said, look, these are great low intensity, run around, you've got all the quality of life you need kind of builds for open world. Pick up a condition damage virtuoso. There are only tendrils around here at the moment. I mean, it just vomits out bleeds to such a... Here we go, here's some enemies. Are they actually vulnerable? That's the question. Oh, is Tarir coming up? And the cool thing about this build, I need to turn this down on my screen here. This sort of sucks because they're running. Is if you pick Incinerator with it, oh my god, the projectiles look so good. It's like a perfect incinerator. Like, look at these blades flying around. So if you want like a throwing knives build, and if you notice, all I'm really doing is spamming 1, 2, 3, a couple of phantasms and shattering. It's ludicrous. So anyway, this is actually one of my favorite builds at the moment. A real shine from End of Dragons. And something I'd missed out on this year, but you know. So yeah, that's my Mesmer, right? It's got a chrono. It doesn't have a core Mesmer. I don't know. Oh, and this look, I've got like the Mesmer. This is a cultural headpiece. Obviously, we've got like the sexy nudie skins for most of the body. That's the winged stuff, but it's actually a different set I've put on the helmet because that looks just very mesmery to me. But yeah, so it goes Chrono, Mirage, Virtuoso, all valid builds. I've done that for all the characters on my account, right? So Liz, for example. Liz, who I'm really not enjoying. I'm not enjoying Ellie at the moment. I don't know, man. There's just very little about it that I like. I love open worlds. So here, this is her, like, Asura-y cultural look. I don't know. You can't really run shoulders on this, which sucks. So I just put the bats on there, the vampiric bats, but I don't know whether that looks that good. But, like, for example, here, she has all 10s, so she's a bit more complicated. She's, like, the main, if you will. I still haven't sorted her bags out. But, yeah, so she has, like, Legendary Light, but died maybe a bit Ellie. And what have I got on the bottom? I haven't really set her up very well. This is Berserker with the Damage Tempest. This is probably my favourite build to run at the moment on Ellie for, like, you know, Dragon's End and, you know, the Escape from Lion's Arch and the Tower of Nightmares and all that kind of... So that's something quite cool as well. Basically, the big thing I've been doing on the game, if I'm not in raids or fractals or the strike CMs, what I'm mostly doing is I'm, like, looking at event timers. The game really needs in-game representation of them, where what I'll do is, you know, I'll fight tech, and then I'll do, like, you know, I'll do a new Kaineng or Xingji or Dragon's End or Echavad. I'll try and do these in the day. I'll do some Heart of Thorns ones. The Heart of Thorns metas now. Guys, the power creep. Again, in line with the idea of this series, Guild Wars End of Dragons 1 year later. The power creep is nuts. Needs to be addressed. It's fucking ridiculous. Every Geralt that spawns instant dies. I mean, really, sometimes you'll see Scarlane survives its first phase, but Geralt these days is just a matter of instantly killing everything, and then you just stand here waiting for like 12 minutes as the timer slowly goes down. Just absurd. And that is the same everywhere. There's no such thing as panicking at Auric Basin anymore, because everything just dies, and you get like a 2-minute timer, but it's fine, people will do it. Verdant Brink is still broken as ever because the hero's daily chest is just killing the Wyvern, the matriarch up there, which sucks. The power creep is just ridiculous. So in a way, the End of Dragons metas are some of the best to do because they don't instantly melt. I mean, genuinely, this is some of the only valid content. The power creep in raids as well. The other day, I was watching Pokemon with a friend, right? Literally, we were watching Pokemon, and it was just me and him, and I said, I put on LFG, Chill Wing 1. It filled, like, instantly. I couldn't even remember how to do half of the Wing 1 stuff as we were going along. And we just cleared every encounter. We didn't set up tanks. We didn't set up squad markers or anything. We didn't assign properly people to do cannons at Sabatha. We just sort of wandered in there. I didn't put any kill proofs up. I didn't do any. I just said chill wing 1. I was commanding the squad. We didn't get in combat. We just grabbed random people. We went in. Everything's died so fast, so easy. And, you know, I'm not totally incompetent in the game, and neither is my friend. So we did the cannons at Sabbatha, basically. And we just cleared it. And we did the same in wing 2. We did the same in wing 4. Okay, so I don't know, man. I mean, it is just crazy. It is crazy, the power creep. When it comes to End of Dragons content, it's all a little bit more resistant. So this static that I'm in Spud with at the moment, the CMs are a lot of fun. Ministerly, Anka, Mitrin, and then finally the Harvest Temple. We have been meeting every day, not Mondays. We only play a tiny little bit, but we've gone through, we've got like all those achievements basically now, except the Harvest Temple, which is where we're at. We got to the Harvest Temple, I think, like 5 days ago. We've been in there 5 times, I think it is. And we're at basically the last phase of it at the moment. We've seen Su 1 now. That's not going to mean anything to any of you guys. I will make a video about that. I think there's been a lot of hype and desperation about it, but it is very interesting content, so I will talk about it. I'll talk about all that stuff, I think. So that's been a lot of fun, and that has not been power crept to oblivion, which is good. But the power creep's really interesting. It's a weird experience because it is, on the one hand, it's like, this is bad, the content's not shining. On the other hand, it's all easy to play now, so it always feels worthwhile going to the metas because you just know they're not going to fail. You know that. So it's a weird one. You know, I feel bad that the content doesn't get a time to shine. I feel bad about anything power crept away out of its own mechanics, like Gorseval is a good example, half the nighttime stuff, you know, the Garant definitely. But anyway, so that's what... Oh, and so to go back to my other point, the other thing I've been doing is... you know, I do like the world bossy stuff that I just said, but also, you know, there is the Eye of the North now, right? The Icebrood Saga Strikes definitely need a tune-up. I would love to see them be as good as the End of Dragons ones and get, like, CMs and so. It would be so good. Anyway, there's the Mist Stranger who will take you... I guess I'll just waypoint there, why not? Don't know why I'm standing in... Tangled Depths. In fact, on both my Mesmer and my Ellie, I've been doing that. Which is kind of weird. So, obviously, you've got this helicopter. I don't know whether it's up at the moment. But this will take you into Dragon Storm, which I hate from a story perspective, but from a, like, visuals and reward perspective, it's fun and cool enough to do every day. The Tower of Nightmares comes up, and you get Zergs going through there. The Battle for Lion's Arch comes up. So some of the Season 1 content is actually sneaking in there and is alright as well. I've got a bunch of achievements and stuff to do on that. I've worked a little bit more on the Lion's Arch key, by the way. Just a little bit. I'm kind of waiting for Kerry to finish some more of this stuff. But I'll be working on that as I go along. So, you know, there's a good range of things to do, and the game's really got under my skin here. To look at some of my other builds. This is my Viper Weaver. I really love this outfit. I don't want Incinerator on anymore. Because I'm using Incinerator on the Virtuoso, I'll use something. I'm trying to like get a good mix of back pieces and stuff. This is such a cool outfit though. I really like this one. This I don't even really play anymore. This is Minstrel Harrier, but that's the cultural one I set up. This I don't play, but it's she's got too many templates really because I'm not enjoying Ellie. There's a real problem with Ellie for me at the moment. This is my open world build, the Black Mage, which again I'm really happy with. So that one's good. Here's my Catalyst open world build. Where I'm using Technobabble to proc Lightning Rod and arcane stuff to proc Immobes and like Catalyst I'm sort of having fun with, and then that's extra. I don't actually need that one, but this is more optimized. I think this one is a more optimized one for Condition Tempest actually. Is why I have this set up. But yeah, that's Liz. Anyway, every character on the account has that kind of setup at the moment. I won't take you through them all, but It is a weird one. How much the game has really grabbed me. You know, I gotta say as well. Like, it's grabbed me so much. I feel awkward about the early videos that I did in this series. But I mean, it was all valid feelings. There's a weird thing here where, like, if any of you guys are cynics like me, you might be watching this video and think, oh well, you know what? WP doesn't get the viewership on Final Fantasy and on Tomb Raider and any of his other projects. It's in his best interest to like Guild Wars. So obviously he's gonna work that bit harder to like Guild Wars, to get into Guild Wars. I promise you that is not what has happened this week. All right, a big point of like depression and sourness for me is, you know, in a lot of ways I'm kind of bound to the game. So if I end up legitimately not liking the game, you know, that puts me in a tough position, a depressing position. It is rough to be in. But I genuinely do not. I have not tried extra hard to really fall in love with Guild Wars. I'd sort of just accepted that a lot of things about it weren't grabbing me over this past year. And when I started making videos again in December, I specifically picked a bunch of other projects because I wanted to push the channel in other directions where I would be happy. And there was no like desperate sense to cling on to this game on any level. The game has re-grabbed me purely on its own merits and purely on its own basis. All this shit, setting up these builds and all this stuff, genuinely, it's just that I've been having a blast in the game. I mean, it's done it all on its own. And it is quite good. It's a really nice thing to feel, and, you know, hopefully it continues. I am a little concerned that it's just a flash in the pan and it will run out really soon and then it's all over, but we'll see. I think a lot of my big disappointments for PvE are that I think what's nice that's happened is there are regular new metas. There's regular actual endgame PvE for me to play at the moment. New stuff for me to play. So it's all the best of Heart of Thorns for PvE. And I don't have to focus on the story too much, which is what I think let me down a lot. Also, I don't have to play... My favourite game type was always PvP, but, you know, I'm sort of completely burned out of that. I'm not going to be playing that anymore. I've ran out of things to do in it, frankly. So unless I had like a tournament team, but we tried that a few years ago. So, but yeah, it's just I've sort of been reclaimed by it, and like I said, I feel like I'm in the Heart of Thorns sort of mode with it. Anyway, here's my Herald, who I've been playing a lot of because this is who I'm actually. Oh, I didn't open my Fractals chest yesterday. This guy I've been playing in HTCM. And I gotta say as well, taking him into Fractals, the power creep is even in Fractals. Putting quickness on this build is absurd. I don't know if I agree with the balance team. There's a lot. There are still a lot of things that really I'm not happy with Guild Wars, to be honest. But I guess I haven't been obsessing or thinking about them much the last few days. Past couple of weeks, even. So yeah, okay, all right. Now, one of the reasons oh, by the way, all of these as well, I've set up all my shared inventory slots. This is becoming a bit of an account tour, isn't it? But yeah, I bought these off the gem store, the world boss and the pact thing, just to sort of try them, because I've never actually really used them before. They're all right. What else I got? I got the recharging TP to a friend, my infinite bank TP merchant. An Arborstone and an Ice Brood portal scroll, so I can swap between the two strike locations, way stations. I don't know, I'm quite happy with that. Oh, my bank as well. My little project is coming back. Okay, so I'll clean out my bank a little bit more. What have we got? We've got all of my like scrolls to go to different locations, half of which I'm not using. There is a scroll that came out in this past year, which is like a fishing location. There's a place called like the Infinite Seas or Infinite Ocean or something like that, and I haven't been there, and I really want to see it, so hopefully that will come back. Usually I never miss stuff like that. To me, this is content, you know, they're exclusive new regions of the world, so it is content. I like to pick this stuff up. Anyway, teleportation stuff, just some random crap there. Boosters, gems, black line stuff. You'll notice my wardrobe unlockers are no longer there. That's because I've used them now. I've used them because I finally... Like, the Ice Brood Saga, really, I didn't play the game that time. The Ice Brood Saga was losing me. And especially at the end with Dragonstorm and some of the stuff that happened there. But, so I finally started looking at, like, some of these rare collections, like the Dragon Slayer stuff, like Illuminated Boreal stuff I hadn't even been getting. So, you know, I'll get a gift of ice from that soon. But yeah, so I realized a lot of this stuff is really expensive. Like the Stormcaller, it's very expensive. It's loads of charged lodestones and stuff. So I'll slowly work on these now, I think, probably. But yeah, so I don't have those. My tomes from the PvP days. Infusions, enrichments. Just some random crap here. Ancient items like bugged runes, the old boons. The old training manuals. Okay, here's where it gets good. Okay, legendary crafting stuff. Because I'm getting my provision tokens and stuff. I'll get some more. Like, I can... Right now, I can actually... Like, I don't get skins from the World versus World and the PvP stuff. But I do from some of the PvE stuff, which I don't have all of. So I'm sort of working on those and getting allies and things. You should probably move that to the side. Alright, here's where it gets... So here's a bunch of pre's. I've started collecting bags of obsidian, because I think they're interesting. You know... I just started this, like, yesterday or the day before. I'm wondering about maybe getting the weird guild decoration things. Bags of fragments and I want to get a bag of bloodstone as well. I think it's weird. But here's the real collection, okay? We'll start from the bottom down. So since the armory came in, none of this stuff matters anymore. But there's a certain novelty and flavor to it. So I've talked about this before. But basically, on the bottom row we have Zerk, okay? So there's a red ring of death, the crystalline band. This is all set up with tuned and infused. Althea's Ashes, the Magister's Field Journal, and then the 3 amulets, right? The Karma one, the Gold one, the Magic Find one, right? You only obviously need 1 amulet as of years and years and years ago. You don't need any of them now if you've created legendary stuff. But yeah, so I've got the Berserker row, and then above it, we have the next row. I think this is Berserker Valkyrie mix. So and then the 3 amulets. So this is every item, and then the next row and the next row. So this is just heaps of laurels. So there's 4 amulets missing here under my cursor. 2 amulets missing here. But this is every ascended trinket in the game. That's what this collection is. That's what I'm going to use this bank for. Here we have the symbol of the Deceiver, and then there's another Shiro related one there. We got 2 amulets missing here. Now this row is really cool. This is the Celestial row, which I have all maxed out. And Celestial's really cool because it has the Syzygy. It has the Eye of Janthir and the Eyes of Abaddon, just such cool items. There's actually a 7th item on Celestial. Of the original set, Celestial gets a 7th because there's a special Mystic Forge item called the Triforge Pendant. And you can tier it up into Ascended. Really cool, very rare item, but it costs a bunch of Mystic coins, so I can't actually afford it. I actually don't really have much money, especially trying to do these Icebrood Saga things. So, and not PvPing anymore, I just don't get any money. That was where all my money came from. So, I'll get that one day. So that's the core stuff. Then it goes into then it goes into the dungeon achievements, right? Then it goes into the Season 2 stuff. So Sinister, Nomad. I'm missing a Nomad piece. Then the Heart of Thorns achievement ones. So these are all of these trinkets. It's only trinkets. It's not back pieces. Season 3 has exactly 10. The Bloodstone Fen ones. The Ruby Band and the Pendant. The Ember Bay ones. The Sparking Petrified Wood. And then the very rare Rurik's Engagement Ring, which people didn't know existed for years. Remember how hidden this was? Very cool item. The Bitterfrost Frontier ones, which is what most people spammed because they messed up with the economy there. And then Draconis Mons, Siren's Landing. Then POF. So this is where it gets a bit splotchy. Because I'm actually missing a bunch of POF stuff. There's like all 3 of these slots for POF I'm missing. And there's some of the new POF sets. Season 2 I'm missing a bunch as well. All of these are missing slots. And then the Icebrood Saga didn't actually have many. You got the Saga's End Draconic Orb core, which is a weird one because this actually has a visual on it. I think technically, if you were going to create a perfect character, you wouldn't I mean, I say perfect in air quotes, you wouldn't wear a legendary amulet on it. You'd wear this. Oh, no, maybe you would. The thing is, I disable the visuals on all the legendary trinkets anyway. I think they're really ugly. At this point, I mean, they had a novelty when I first got them, but now I just think they look like a mess. Anyway, the Ancient Norn pin, which I think had the Otter infusion at it at first, the Celebration one. And then technically, these are End of Dragons ones, which we're actually working on right now. Each of these trinkets comes from finishing the End of Dragons story achievements, which we'll be going to in just a second. But since there weren't many in the Icebrood Saga, and I don't think there's many in End of Dragons, I'm going to put them on the same row. But yeah, so that's my, like, trinket collection. And I'm especially excited to finish all the core ones off. But, you know, it's like 20 or 30 laurels a piece for each one, depending on if you buy them World vs. World, which I am. I get my next laurel, I think tomorrow. See, and I know that, well, I know when that's how into the game I am at the moment. I've got a very clear sense of, like, what I'm working on and what I'm doing. I've got a very clear sense of what's going on with the balance and, like, I don't know. I mean, and it's crazy. It's crazy how so many of my opinions and desperation for different features and stuff completely shifts as soon as you're in the mode. I really think the best thing for the game, I think I would really struggle if I was a dev for this game, because if you're not in that place, if you're not obsessed about playing it yourself, you're just not going to make the right decisions. I mean, you might to appeal to like outsiders and other jaded people, but I don't know. I think it's so weird. Like, you have to be playing it a lot and really understand what's fun about it and click into something with it. And then, like, a whole world of possibility and enthusiasm opens up. But if that goes away, then it's rough. So, yeah, anyway, there you go. That's what I'm doing. I was actually technically working on this last year, but I sort of forgot about it. In episode 1, 2, and 3 of this series, I wasn't really that interested in it. But for 4 and 5, I am again. But yeah, oh, okay, all right. Now, why did I go on that rant? I didn't really want to go on that whole rant, to be honest. Not as long as I did. The reason is because my Vindicator looks different. So we're going to go back to the story now. We're going to go meet Navan at the Knickers Blade, and we're going to do this. My Vindicator looks very different, and I think a lot of you guys will find it very ugly. Okay, so Quickness Herald. Busted, OP, ridiculous build. I'm on Malix because I was boon ripping and fractals last night. I'll put Jarless because that's what I run in the Harvest Temple. But I'm having a lot of fun on it. I used to love Herald in PvP. I'm very familiar with the class, so it's kind of cool to do all this crazy damage and also splash out, you know, massive boons for people. I think this will probably be nerfed, should be nerfed. Maybe not the quickness side of it, but the uptime on the other boons probably really should be. Anyway, Herald, so what do we have next? Well, we have... Oh, the next template should be Renegade. I still don't really know what I'm doing here. Oh, I showed you guys this on the last part, didn't I? Okay, but my Vindicator... Okay, so you know how I said across... I've got to figure out how to explain this to you guys before I click it on. And you see the abomination I've got. Okay, remember I said that I didn't want to use the Incinerator on Liss because I have it on my Virtuoso, and it just looks amazing throwing the blades on the Virtuoso. Okay, so I'm running out of skins, kind of. So I'm thinking, but I'm thinking Vindicator uses greatswords. So there's a really cool greatsword skin I could play with here. What's the cool greatsword skin? So I'm looking through my bank. You know, I've got a lot of greatsword skins. What's cool? What's cool? Well, there's a greatsword skin that is like a classic skin. Like a year 1 skin. Like a badass, oh my god, this thing's amazing. Everyone loved in the first year. Was super expensive in the second year through scarcity, and people didn't know how difficult it would be, okay? It's a huge greatsword. It's got an amazing sound effect on it. And on a Norn, it looks even bigger. What's the greatsword I'm thinking of, guys? What is it? Well, of course, it's the Chain Greatsword. Of course, it's the Halloween Greatsword. And I've always liked that skin, but I've never really had a build for it. So I put it on my Vindicator. So obviously it looks like really techy and big and crazy. So I'm like, okay, I guess my Vindicator should look technical then, all right? So it's like a high-tech Vindicator. It does not look Canthan in any way. I just want to be clear. My Vindicator does not look Canthan. There's a cool Jade Tech outfit I can get from this expansion, by the way, which I haven't done yet. Yeah, I've learned a lot more about skins I can do and things. And I want to pick that up at some point. So it doesn't look Canthan. So instead, so let's think about Vindicator for a second. What does it do? When it dodges, it like rockets into the sky and it slams down. So I'm going high tech. I'm going bulky. I've got this like chain greatsword. So essentially, I've made it look like Iron Man. Or like an ODST, you know, an orbital drop shock trooper. Basically, I'm like a Spartan, I'm like a super soldier, I'm in like high-tech, like heavily ironclad, okay? It's a vibe. It's one I don't think many people will like, but this is what I've gone with, okay? Hell yeah, so this is my Vindicator now. And look at how good that is with the dodge, right? No, I don't know. And look, it works for like the fire crashing down. So we've got like the forge thing, the forge on the backpack, the forge on the shoulders. So this is what we look like now for the rest of this playthrough. Okay. And I have not had good reviews on this, but there it is. I like it. I mean, I probably need to dye it better because I'm not technically that good with this kind of stuff, but yeah. This is all homemade wooden potatoes fashion. And can I just remind you all, I do have another 6 characters I haven't shown off here, which all also have various appearances. I have every elite spec set up except Willbender. That's the one I don't have set up. Oh, I've got to show you my Guardian. I love my Guardian. Here, check this out. This is totally becoming a Kangatora, isn't it? Where is he? I haven't got Willbender set up. That is the one elite spec I've not played still. End of Dragon's elite spec I've not played still. And it's weird. I'm in a rough place with my Necro now because I kind of don't like Gux anymore because he's too small. I got too many Asura. So this is my Firebrand, who's like Joko themed. You know, you got the Joko back piece, the funerary gear, the Firebrand helmet. It's all like old, you know, tarnished brass on all of his stuff. That's my Firebrand build. But I love my... Oh, we need someone with better lighting here. Well, whatever. This is my my Dragon Hunter, and I love the cloth and the blue on our back, and then the blue cloth under here and stuff. I don't know. I really like him. What's his third one at the moment? Oh, and then there's core. I actually do have a core build for a Guardian. This is my Radiant set. Radiant Chaos Weapons. This is a core healer for open world Zergs. Really fun. Genuinely. It's massive healing. You basically turbocharge the F2, and you can turbocharge the... Well, I haven't turbocharged it, but you can run the Signet as well. And you just splash so much regenerative healing. It's ridiculous. Lots of fun. And then all the Aegis is healing people and stuff. And Aegis is just nice in certain open world events, like Garen. Aegis is really good. It stops people getting spanked away and stuff. But anyway, okay, so back to End of Dragons, back to the Vindicator. We're going to the Knickers Blade. Now, I do genuinely want to get some achievements here with you guys. So Act 1, we missed a couple, but I do have the trinket, the loot. We saw that in my bank a second ago. Act 2, I've missed one, but we have the traveling tankard. Act 3, I do not have the Kurzik brooch. So at some point in this act, I want to get that. I only need 2 more achievements. So what do we need? A study of the macabre. Find all evidence of incursions while searching Arborstone. That should be fun. That's going to be void stuff. Slight spoiler for in a minute. Now, there's this one, the Nika's Vengeance. This is in the very next instance we're going to do. Defeat Captain Far while under the influence of the special dish. So, slight spoiler, we're going to be offered a meal in a second. And, I've never picked the special dish. Because as far as End of Dragon's story is concerned, despite all my playtime these past few days, I haven't really touched the story on any level, on any character. So I still have only ever done 3 playthroughs. One last spring, one at Christmas, and this one you're watching here today. So I'm still fairly out of touch, and I haven't really played that much of the story here. So yeah, let's just say along. And like, look, the meta's coming up. I kind of want to stay and do it. Oh, I've been getting some cool drops as well. So I'm learning a bit about the meta drops. I think I have one in my bank still, because the idea is, even though I'm not having any fun on Ellie at the moment, well, minor fun on Ellie, I still consider her kind of the main. She has all the big bags and stuff. But yeah, I got this manufactured lodestone, which gives you Treasure Hunter Protocol 3, which dropped in the Echovald Wilds. And I got, like, I think I got another one of those as well. So, like, Jade Bot upgrade progression. It's quite interesting. I think I'll look into it a bit more. I haven't really done much in End of Dragons with the research kits and, you know, some of the skins and things you get from that, so that's all to learn. Hopefully it's good. I'm still fairly underwhelmed by a lot of those elements of this expansion. Oh, and I don't have, like, all different skiff skins and stuff. I'm still basically using the base skiff. I have done some stuff with my mounts. This guy doesn't have all technical mounts, because there's a bit of a tricky thing here with what I'm doing, where everyone has 3 appearances and 3 elite specializations. It's really cool, right? But what I want to do is I want to have a mini associated with each one. Like, I'd love to have a technical mini associated with this build, and I'd love to have, you know, a Canthan-looking mini, a Mists associated mini with my Herald build. The Herald just looks like a classic quintessential Heart of Thorns Herald, right? Like, that's another thing I'm doing with the appearances, trying to make them contemporary. So, like, my Firebrand looks like it's using a bunch of POF skins, right? My Firebrand, because it's a POF elite spec. This is a Heart of Thorns elite spec, so I'm using a bunch of elite Heart of Thorns skins. You get the point. But what I'd want is a tech mini associated with this, and tech mounts associated with this, and maybe a technical infinite combat tonic or something associated with this. You know, I'd like to bind more stuff to the build templates so that when I swap, it truly swaps everything. I think that would be really powerful because that would get people so interested in so many more skins. You know, if you just play one character, one build, one idea, and one skin set, there are thousands of skins in this game. Loads of rewards and fun things you could go for, but you're going to miss out. The build template system could fix all of that, but they didn't quite go all the way, and it's a bit of a shame, really, in terms of incentivizing people to do stuff. So I'd love to be able to swap more. But yeah, anyway, there was something else I was going to say mixed in there, but I've forgotten it now. Oh, apparently I'm playing with ARC DPS on, which is totally unnecessary, but hey. Alright, so let's recap here. What were we doing with the story? Having escaped from the Yong reactor, we all went our separate ways to help us evade capture. We're on the run from the law, if you remember. It seemed... I should timestamp this. First 40 minutes was not part of the story playthrough, really. It seems we're being blamed for what Anka did, and with Suwon on the loose, there's no time to stop and explain what happened. Aurene set off on Suwon's trail with Kaith, while I received a message from Navan hinting the Empress is on our side, or at least hasn't made up her mind yet. Navan suggested we meet at a local sushi restaurant to discuss the situation further, so I'll now meet her at the Knickers Blade to see what she has to say. Hopefully the food's good. So I like that coming from a Norn. So remember, Navan was this kind of... I wouldn't even say enigmatic character. She's just a woman we met and has just joined the cast. And she's just like hanging around. We haven't met her for a while, but we met her on Saitang. We got on a boat with her. The devs have done a very good job not drawing undue attention to her, which I'm now doing in this discussion. But I think she was a really cool part of this, and she knows we're on the run and crazy stuff's happening, and suddenly it's her that's offering to help us out. It's her that's shown us. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say is you could even get into infusions, right? You could put a different infusion on each outfit. And actually, I didn't know this, but if you do the challenge mode of the Harvest Temple, which is like proper, it's like actual raiding progression like you'd find in other MMOs. It's genuinely good. If you do it, they have good rewards. They have a unique back piece on there. They have an infusion on there. And I don't know about you guys, but I kind of don't like infusions in Guild Wars much. They're just blobby, magical messes. People just use themselves to look like visual vomit, you know? And I've done that in the past. You know, that was a novelty to me many years ago too. But, you know, they're just messy. This infusion from the Harvest Temple, though, guys, is really good. It's like... It's perfect Barbie stuff, you know. It's like beautiful drifting little pink flower petals, and it's got like a lovely unsheath effect that swirls around you. Like, it's gorgeous, okay? It would appeal to absolutely any like fashion-oriented Guild Wars 2 player. Any of them would look at that and be like, that looks cool, and have genuine incentive to go and play that. But yeah, so you could do like a pink, pretty, flowery look with that infusion on there, and you know, whatever. Anyway. I do technically still have a dwarf on my account. Oh, I don't have dialogue high.
This situation is diplomatically sensitive. The Empress... Commander.
Oh.
You arrived. Let's take a seat. This is my favorite sushi in New Kaineng. I would make a recommendation, but everything is good.
You honor us, esteemed Navan. What would you like today?
I'll have the yellowtail and the triple temaki, please.
I'll take a bowl of white rice.
You don't care for sushi, detective?
Don't eat anything that looks like it should still be moving.
Like my floppy fish over here.
I see.
Rama is definitely a cool... He's full of character and he's just oozing with personality, you know. Even just the freaking bowl of white rice there. It's cool. So, obviously, Navan is a dragon. She's a salt spray dragon. I like this scene, looking back at it and thinking, okay, that's a dragon that enjoys eating fish, you know. It is a deadly carnivore, ultimately. I don't think she'll say anything here. So here we're going to pick the special, I think. Let's just quickly look again here, because I've forgotten already, because I'm a dumbass. The Nika's Vengeance, the special dish, yeah. I assume this will debuff us in some way. Small plates.
And for you.
Small plates, prawn salad, a bowl of fresh, lightly spiced tiger prawns with sesame-infused greens will make you feel like you can withstand anything the world throws at you. Sushi, a skipjack roll, tuna, crab meat, seaweed, cilantro, rolled in rice, topped with a roe. Order this and boost your body's natural power to heal and magical acumen. Sushi, triple tamaki, fresh Kaineng salmon, served inside seaweed rolls filled with radish, cucumber, and spicy mayo. Charisma will emanate from your every pore. Grill the charred eel. Succulent eels sautéed with ginger, garlic, and our special spicy house sauce. So potent you'll feel yourself bursting with power. The grill, we have yellowtail, seared tuna steaks, drizzled in a refreshing honey sesame glaze. You'll be filled with regenerative energy. That's what Navan has picked, obviously. There isn't even a bowl of white rice on the menu. I like that. The chef. Why is he a bit of a sourpuss there? I didn't get that vibe from him before. Or the chef's special. Hit it on page 2. Soup with rice noodles, grilled chunks of the day's catch, and topped with our own special roe. This bowl is sure to surprise and delight even the most critical of palates. It actually made me a little bit hungry reading all of this. I can't remember the last time I ate rice or fish. All right, we'll try the chef's special. Oh, are you sure? Chef Wei said that it's really only for the strongest of constitutions. You sure you want it? I imagine this is like that poisonous urchin stuff, you know? Bring it on, you only live once. Wow, we actually said YOLO. We can turn our helmet off. I know people will be hating the helmet, okay? So don't you guys worry.
Detective, I understand how this all looks.
You mean the fact terrorism follows you around like a bad smell?
It's because we've been on the trail of a terrorist. An Aether Blade named Anka. She ordered the Aether Blade attacks, and she released Suwan.
Do you have any proof? Any at all?
Look, I know you've got a file going on me. You probably already understand me better than I do.
True.
So, what sounds more likely? That I put millions of lives in danger? Or that I'm pursuing the person who did?
Let's hear what Navan has to say.
Thank you. Now, everyone, if we could...
Commander, I'm afraid I need to ask you to come with me.
Uh-oh.
Captain, we are in the process of negotiating a civil resolution.
Humblest apologies, esteemed Navan, but Lady June wants to see to this personally.
Detective, can you tell your colleague to stand down?
He's not my colleague, he's a gussied-up rent-a-cop. Go back to Junlai, Captain Fa. The real police are on the case.
Detective, the event in question took place on Junlai property, and under the autonomy resolution, a corporate entity may claim jurisdiction to whatever...
If the resolution is in the primary interest of the corporate entity.
Captain, I need to remain free to pursue the Elder Dragon, your corporate
I feel a bit
entity
weird
was keeping
continuing
under
to sit
time.
down here. I like that. But also I'm a giant Norn and I'm almost as tall as them while seated. I feel like I've got a lot of swagger doing this.
Saw a dragon emerge from the water near your facility. Please, listen to what the commander has
It's such
to
a shame
say.
that wasn't a cutscene in this expansion.
Very well.
Seeing the dragons fly off.
Restraint from a corporate stooge.
Alright, should we eat the optional, eat my meal? Oh, well, I want to. Can I not do it while seated? Oh my god. It puts the big head on us. That's funny. Alright. It won't wear off, will it? Oh god, it will. Well, this just got 20 times more complicated. If I were thinking to turn yourself in, I can't let you. How does fire have jurisdiction? It's complicated. Some corporate personage nonsense. Pain in my ass. I've butted with Captain Far before. It comes down to a fight. You're going to need my backup. Seriously? Why would you fight for me when you were sent to arrest me? Because I got a pretty good instinct for this kind of stuff, and my instinct says that I shouldn't let you take him without a fight. Plus, I've been waiting to knock Far's teeth in for a while. Okay, brilliant. We'll see how it goes. Commander, I strongly urge you not to escalate the situation any further. Lady June is stubborn, but she often employs those who share that trait. Do you think it's worth trying to negotiate? While Captain Far is a company man, he's also a rationalist. If you can apply the right logic, you should possibly get through to him. I'll consider what you said. Thank you, Navan.
Time grows short, Commander. You asked to speak with me, so speak.
Okay. Make your case, Commander. Navan carries enough weight that I'll hear you out. I think one of the other achievements is convince him properly. I'm just going to say, forget it. I don't have time for talk.
Seems we're doing this
And I genuinely don't. Oh, do we want to be on Jarvis on this? I don't think we do necessarily, do we? Let's aim on the Jade bots. You know, the funny thing is, for all this gameplay I've done, I haven't touched Vindicator. I've touched its visuals, but I haven't actually played it. Well, I think I played it for a moment. Can we block? Can we block? Yeah. Oh god, the visuals genuinely are making me a bit sick here. See, I feel like I'm doing very low damage. So I wonder if I don't actually have, like...
Fine. I yield.
We actually nearly died as well. That's crazy.
Dragons, but your face is about to be plastered on every hologram in Kanta.
Did he say
You won't get
Kanta?
far.
Okay, bye-bye. Okay, this is ridiculous.
Well, that was an effective, if unfortunate, way to deal with things.
You said you have a plan, Navan?
Ah, yes. First, where do you stand, Detective? Do you still insist on taking the commander in?
No. I've seen and heard enough to convince me the commander's got a job to do. But I'm coming along. If things are as bad as you say they are, well, you need me. If they're not, then I get any sense I'm being played.
You're not.
I borrowed something from the Ministry of Intelligence for you, Commander. It will disguise your face, and nothing else.
Intel gets all the best toys.
I know somewhere you can use as a base of operations. A historic refuge. It's just east of here, in the Echovolt Forest. The detective and I will go first to clear any potential roadblocks. You, Commander, will meet us at the city gates.
See, this is a bit of a weird bit of the story, too. I feel like there could have been a bit more in the city while our appearance is scrambled or whatever, but we kind of just leave straight away. You know, there's an interesting idea that beat there of, okay, we're on the run and we're in the city.
We need to talk.
But we basically just have a meal and
This
leave.
is about the fallout from Junlai Jade.
Fallout? They are talking about a tribunal, Commander. Half the ministers want to deport us all immediately.
Has anyone been able to smooth things over with June?
No. It's taking all my charm to keep her from kicking me out.
No one at the reactor was willing to listen either. There was some evidence of an Aether Blade presence, but no trace of Anka herself.
And Aureen's brand is still spreading, hampering repair efforts.
I just met with Navan. She has a plan to help.
Which means the Empress is probably on our side.
Exactly. Navan is taking me to a sanctuary in the Echovolt Forest. Somewhere we can plan our next move. Detective Rama's thrown his impressive hat in with us as well.
I like that line.
Jory, Gorik, meet me in Echovolt. Kaz, Taimi, keep doing what you're doing.
I think all the small moments and the, you know, the beat by beat writing in this expansion and just all of Guild Wars is all really good. You know, it's all funny and entertaining enough, and it's all good. It's just like the big ticket directions they always seem to take it in that, well, not always, but often take it in, that end up feeling like the letdown to me. Speaking of big ticket items, we are coming to... Oh, do you know what? Can I take the protocols into story missions? There's no batteries here, though. We are coming to the biggest ticket now. And that's the Void. And I can't really remember what I said on part 4 and part 3 about the Void already. I probably ranted and whined for much time about it. Even if I use this battery to go get some of the upgrades... is probably not going to matter much. Yeah, people kind of have a point, by the way. I saw someone in chat earlier that you can take the protocols into early maps, and that might be a reason for some of the power creep. I don't think it is entirely. I really don't. I think it's just straight up power creep. And access to a lot more tools and boons on damaging builds than people had before. But yeah, that probably is a contributor. So this visual here, you know, I said back in spring, this shot of the opening of Arborstone, I love. I think this is a real highlight. When I think back to my first playthrough of End of Dragons, this will go down always as one of those all-time great moments for me. I mean, it's on a video, I think, on WP2 somewhere. I really, really love the way this place looks. I love the way it's going to get all dark and, you know, monochrome and just, like, evil looking in a second. It's fantastic.
I see you got out of Kaining without any trouble, Commander.
I'd love to open that disguise tech up and take a little look.
Don't even think about it. You break that thing, and the commander will be on a one-way trip back to Xingjie.
So, where's that safe haven you mentioned, Navan?
Right behind us.
Arborstone. My grandma used to tell me stories. Family lore is where parts who helped her. They built this place. It was one of the great houses of the Kurziks.
For centuries. Until it was abandoned when they were conquered by the Ministry of Purity.
Due respect, ma'am, but safe haven? This place isn't exactly subtle.
No, but its occupants are no friends of the Canthan authorities. You'll be safe here. Come. See.
I feel like this is a bit of a Tarir moment, actually. You know, when you first meet the Luminant and they sort of show you around. The Zuhauser stuff's kind of weird in this game. I don't think it tracks that well, because the Kurziks aren't really in it. You know, you don't get the really exotic, like, ultra-white, pale-looking people with the really crazy, you know, like, fashion and the tree singers and all that. It's not there. So when you hear about them, I don't know, I guess it does give a deep sense of history. I'd be very curious about people who didn't play Guild Wars 1, what they feel when they hear stuff like, oh, we were part of Zuhauser. I'm sure they're just words, right, with no tangible connection. For me, I guess I'm supposed to, as a Guild Wars 1 player, I'm supposed to feel something about it, but I don't know, it just kind of feels like nothing a lot of the time. There was that old lore that the Kurziks and Luxons came from the south.
Mean right past the shadow monsters?
What?
So,
No, it can't be.
it'd be interesting to see if they do anything with that. But yeah, so shadow creatures, the Void. I mean, what do we say about the Void that we haven't said before? Most of my opinions about the Void, 1 year later, have not changed. You know, they feel like a budgetary mechanism of getting a bunch of new dragon minions and things in. Let's turn sound effects down. Isn't it maxed out? Yeah, it's way too loud, isn't it? Way too loud. You know, because they're not technically new enemies. They're all the old enemies that were just with a filter on them or whatever. Oh, by the way, that's a thing as well from the CMs. You can get an infinite combat Void tonic. So you can become a Void creature and fight as a Void creature. The fact it's a combat tonic is pretty cool. I don't know if it has different forms. That would be so cool, like the Marganite tonic in Guild Wars 1. I think in a way, right, the Void on paper worked really well. It's like, okay, this is the final moment in the Dragon Saga. So having a creature... I dodged too early there. Dodge damage builds are so weird. Oh, God. See, I don't like Jarlis. I want something with a Sunbreak. I can't even heal there. It kind of works really well, as much as, like, it's like, oh, yeah, remember the Risen? Remember the Kralkatoric minions? Remember the Minotaurs? Remember this? And then you sort of get to see them in a new sort of environment. But the thing is, I think there needed to be a bit more to them for gameplay. Instead of just, they just look black. That's it. They don't play any different.
But on closer inspection, they appeared to be constructs of some kind, made up of an unidentified magic. Not the same one we found in the reactor.
Perhaps we should move this discussion into the warded cathedral. Unless you prefer to conduct further research firsthand.
No, that's not necessary.
Alright, so we have an achievement here to get a bit more. I love the vibe of the Void stuff, though. I think it's amazing. I love the whole, like, anti-reality kind of edginess.
Logical assumption, but shouldn't hers be water?
Didn't look like any water I've ever seen.
You really think the wards will keep them out, Navan?
I can't be certain, but I hope so.
It's interesting. Navan must know we're talking shit in that scene. It's cool how they put the character model forwards as well. Because it's not got anything to do with... Well, it has got to do with Suwon.
Always look this way?
But it's not her.
Not at all. I don't know what could have happened. I left a powerful guardian in charge. Ishan.
Awfully quiet. Was it just Ishan?
No. We should be hearing laughter and song and crackling fires. There was a large group taking shelter.
Was being the operative word.
If there's anyone here, we'll find them.
Sorry, I'm buried in my achievements here. And I shouldn't be. I put this panel up with a bit of urgency because I think my playthrough at Christmas, you sort of run out of time. So what we're looking for is a journal of a lost Tengu, a journal tainted by some sort of strange energy, and a wooden target that appears to move on its own accord. Now, last time, when I did this in spring, I went to the right and that way. So let's go left and maybe we'll find some other stuff instead this time. But these were all amazing. I remember just being so fascinated by this. I do love the vibe of the Void. You know, I love edgy stuff.
What happened here? They look like they were in the middle of unpacking.
His chest is hollow. All the internal organs are gone.
But there's no visible wounds. Where the hell did they go?
Well, don't look at me. You're the death expert.
This is really good as well. Having two detectives in a scene like this, where it's like, what? Like, they play off of a scene like this really well. And that line about her being a death expert, I think is really good as well. Very clever. It's like they really did get into these characters' heads and think about, like, what are they good at? What would their take be? What would their take be of the situation and of each other?
Their faces are blue. Did they all choke?
No. Take a closer look at the cheeks and lips. Swollen. Could be anaphylaxis.
Pretty big coincidence if they were all allergic to the same thing. Maybe poison?
The only way to know for sure would be to test the food, but we need to get it to a lab.
You do forensics?
I dabble as a hobby. I enjoy reading about unsolved crimes and seeing if I can solve them.
I actually do that. There's a subreddit called Unsolved Mysteries. It's really good. There's some amazing... I'm sure I've talked about this before. If you guys aren't subbed to Unsolved Mysteries on Reddit, you should definitely do it. Real world enigmas and strange cases. They have some filters on there for stuff like missing artifacts and, like, you know, historical mysteries, and they're really cool. The only problem with the subreddit is 90% of the content is just like depressing crime stuff. It's like, oh, here's this girl that got killed in 1983. No one knows why. It's like that, just copy pasted. Here's this person that went missing. Here's this person that went missing. Here's this person who got killed. And it's just, you know, so the true crime elements of it, I sort of don't like. Here you go. This is definitely something we missed. But it's a really good. Ooh, oh, this is cool. It's like full-on haunted house. The wooden target appears to be in some sort of temporal flux. Unsure which position in time and space it should occupy. Step away. This is the void at its best in this instance, I think. Because once it starts talking and it's like, is it a personality? Once it, you know, and it's basically... I don't know, the idea of the void resurrecting the Elder Dragons is such an amazing concept too. Like the trailer for End of Dragons ending with a resurrected Kralkatorrik in green. Oh, doesn't that look so good? The green Kralkatorrik? But that's not what we ended up getting in game, which is kind of odd. Don't you guys think? Like, Kralkatorrik doesn't get resurrected in green. He's just got like the weird black goop over him again. I don't know. Did they move away from the green visual some point late in development because green was associated with Jade Tech? But I mean... I don't know what happened there. Camp remains? Did we find this?
Sleep.
Smoldering embers in the brazier.
Puts the time of death sometime in the last few hours.
I guess what's happened with this achievement is it's specifically designed that you can't max it out in one run, because each objective you get pushes the bar a little bit too much. They don't want you to find every single one. So we've got to be careful here that we don't over progress it. Study the macabre. So we're looking for a journal of a lost Tengu. So a journal and two journals. A journal tainted by some sort of strange energy. So let's keep our eyes out. There's a journal, and that's definitely a Tengu. K's Hawkstrider. I've never read this in my life. Day 32. We made camp in Arborstone while we conducted our surveys in Ekervald. The Kestrels were hospitable, but distant. I suppose I would be too with the things that they see every day. The gangs grow bolder, the atmosphere more tense. While we're inside the walls of Arborstone, we're looked after by a guardian, Ishan. His presence is a comfort. This is obviously the other salt spray. Day 37. And they're obscuring the fact it's a salt spray, just using the word guardian here. He's going to be at the boss fight in a second. Day 37. We heard rumors of outsiders arriving in Cantha. Oh, this is really recent. This place fell to shit very recently. Well, of course it did, actually, if you think about it, at the onset of the Void. We heard rumors of outsiders arriving in Cantha. I'm excited, but Suni is skeptical. She doesn't believe this will be good for our nation. Just more squabbling for us to deal with, she says. I'm trying to get more details. 3 days later, Suni was right about the squabbling. The outsiders have been here less than a week. I guess this is all while the commander's unconscious, which is interesting to think about. The outsiders have been here less than a week and are already at odds with every faction in Cantha. One group flew over in their crude airship, and we heard rumbles like cannon fire from off to the southeast. The next day, we just got word about a tragedy in Kaineng. Power outages, strange malfunctions across the board. There are even people claiming to have seen the deep sea dragon, Su-1. Look at that line there just written out. Imagine reading that during like the POF era or something. With their own eyes, along with another shimmering being in pursuit. Some claim it was a second dragon. Some think it might have been one of the gods. Dwayne returned from the mists. Ishan has been acting strangely. His mood has darkened considerably. I can't say he's making me comfortable anymore. This is awesome. Oh my god, the little comment about Dwayne there. We actually get to see Ishan starting to get void corrupted. The revelatory tragedy here that these people died mere moments before we got here. I mean, the impression I got in spring was that this had happened a while ago. But no, it's very recent, which is really, really scary, isn't it? Really sad. I guess that's why Navan's so shocked too. Perhaps we can assume that she regularly moves in and out of this place. So that strange anomaly I don't really want to interact with, but I feel like walking near it is going to trigger dialogue because of the way they've telegraphed with the green dots. But so here you see I've got these packed things in the bottom left. I'm getting all these yellow notifications now, and it genuinely is quite helpful. I don't think they should have sold on the gem store though. When people talk about like poor gem store practices, that to me is one of them. This could have been a real benefit long term for player retention and you know, making sure casual players know that there's fun things to do, rewarding things to do. This should have been a game option, and they sold it. They sold a game option. It would have been so much more benefit to the game and to the consumers to have just actually put that as a regular thing. But they sold it now, and now it's like, how do they create that functionality anywhere else if some people have paid gems for it? It's one of the worst decisions I think they've ever made on the gem store, actually, to put those there. So there's an unsent letter, piles of straw over there. We're looking for a journal, remember? A letter wouldn't necessarily count as a journal. Floating corpse, resonant body. These things are all really interesting, but I don't want to touch them until we've got this last journal. I assume it's somewhere over here on the left, because, again, this is the place that I didn't see much of before. Oh, there it is. There it is. Journal. Strange journal. You've been out of the loop for years. What did they sell? Well, this happened years ago. I'm talking about the World Boss portal device and the Maguma Pact portal operation device. The World Boss device, they actually updated with Icebreed Saga stuff, by the way. Like here, this is telling me Dragonstorm is coming up and gives me a free instant waypoint into Dragonstorm, which is really good. Well, the Eye North, technically. But again, I think the waypoint functionality, maybe they could sell on the gem store. It's kind of like, you know, a waypoint sale package. I kind of get that. The waypoint thing maybe is sellable, but the notification side of it, that should just be a thing in game. All right, there we go. Look at all that stuff we just dinged from reading this. Fish. You could really go for some fish right about now. Wait, is this Ashu speaking? Do dragons write in journals? I mean, if he had a human form, he could have wrote. What is right, actually? Is it opposite of left, or is it complementary? When's the last time anyone ever really complimented you? Do they not see how hard you work? How much you care about? Care about? Oh, please. As if anyone ever really cared about you. Not even your mother or father cared about you. Wait, do you even have a mother? Why have you not even thought about your parents in so long? Or ever? Hold on. Why is this book using you and not me? Clearly this book would appear to be vocalizing my own thoughts, which means it should be saying I from here on. Here. How did I get here? Where am I going? I really, really hope I'm not the bad guy in this story. I think this story needs to end now. End. The end. Now. I don't know if I'm insane, man, but I see so much meta commentary and so much of End of Dragons, it's unreal. I don't know, it's obviously just because it's the end of a saga. This is really cool, very weird idea. This is just meant to be mind-breaking, inscrutable, grim shit, basically, right? It's a way of expressing sort of dark thoughts and doubts people have. But also, is it coming from the inanimate object? Or is the thought coming from the object or the person reading? There's like a deconstruction of like where a concept lies, the thing that prompts the thought or the thought itself. There's a lot of weird things going on there. I like that. I think that's where the void is at its best, actually, where it's just like, what? Like this thing where, what do they say? They did the square root, or what is it here? There's something about like a transcendental number in one of these, isn't there? Is it this one?
No, that isn't possible. It's like someone took the square root of -1
Yeah, there you go.
and just put it in the sky. What villain would disrespect the laws of physics like this?
Really? That's the thing you're hung up on here?
Look, the universe has rules. Break those rules and nothing, I mean nothing, makes sense. Nothing can be trusted. Down is up is down, water is dry. Am I still Goric?
You are definitely still Goric.
Yeah, talking about the selling convenience thing, you guys. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I said this already in a new player guide. You guys don't need to hear this, to be honest, if you're watching this. But the number one thing, if you're like, I kind of want to play more Guild Wars, but I don't know what to do, you need to go in-game chat and you need to type /wiki-et. This here that I've got in chat, that's it. That page, that wiki page, is everything to a like casual to mid-tier player who's not in World vs. World, who's not in PvP, is not in like a raiding or a fractal static or anything like that. That is the thing, really. And I mean, the content's not that mind-blowing, but it's rewarding and it's very varied. It will take you to Dragonstorm and it will take you everywhere. And it is the thing. It should definitely be in game. There should be a version of /wiki-et in game, unquestionable. That is like one of the top tier things I think this game needs. In fact, I was thinking of doing a video series. I don't know whether I will, because I think the videos might be a bit rubbish. But just literally things I think Guild Wars needs. And it's just like, this whole video is just dedicated to one little thing that I think Guild Wars needs. I think, you know that we have the content guide, right? Guides you around map completion and story and events. We need another version of the content guide that triggers on the top right. And it is a world boss timer for you in-game. You can use Wiki-et. You can also use add-ons and stuff like Blishud and things. But that's not a solution. Not really. You can't, because that's for people who are already invested in the game. That's people who already know Guild Wars and are looking to navigate to those third-party areas. And the wiki is a third-party area. Well, not third-party, really. It's outside the game. It's too much effort. It's too much hassle to ask of actual casuals, actual people you want to transition into being more interested in the game. So many people just miss all that stuff. It needs to be in there, and it needs to be on by default. But yeah, anyway, that's not really End of Dragons related, is it?
Their faces are horrified. Like they were scared to death. Literally.
Poor bastards. Kicked around their whole lives just to die like this.
The GS2 sound effect doesn't trigger all the time. Have you guys noticed? Oh no, it did. It's just very quiet. I think I've just turned the effects down a lot. So here we go.
Where is Ishan? He was supposed to be protecting these people.
Well, looks like he abandoned his post.
Or he was first to go.
Which is actually the case. Rama's right on the money.
Came from over there.
Should we investigate?
Yes, but keep your eyes and ears open.
It's interesting to think the same could happen to Navan, by the way. In Guild Wars 1, the same happened to her when she became, like, Shiro corrupted, essentially. I don't know if we're essentially saying the Void is Shiro corruption. That's one of the big failures of End of Dragons, I think. They really could have done better.
Everything okay?
Ishan?
To be clear about, okay, this was an example of the Void pre-EOD. Like, be very clear.
Salt spray dragon. But it's like those creatures outside. A shade.
I don't know, maybe it's just the effect that. What's my other weapon? It is stuff. Okay, fine. We will break the bar. Oh, I missed my weakness. It's fine, we got it anyway. Actually, I believe, genuinely, that Navan just broke that break bar, which is actually kind of satisfying. Alright, let's focus on getting some dodges up.
It apparently brought friends.
I was going to say, wow. I don't remember that fight being that short. This is good, though, here, that they actually have a little bit of a, I should really put some more stab on or something. I don't want to spend all the energy on the road. See, it kind of sucks that I really don't like the profession mechanic. I'm in a weird place with the End of Dragons Elite specs right now, guys, which is that I still don't like them. I think thematically they're a mess. I think in terms of like raw mechanics and ideas, they were clearly hastily done, blah, 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 blah. I don't like them. But they are all so overpowered. They're like fun to play. So I'm in a weird place now with it where it's like, I don't want that to be... That's not right. That you can't get away from the criticism just because it's so OP. It's therefore fun. I don't know. I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out or something. But because I am a lot more into the game at the moment, I can't help but admit I've been playing a lot, not this one, but I've been playing a lot of the new Elite specs just because, you know, they're strong and that therefore means fun. I don't know. I still think I'm going to maintain that it was a very poor batch of elite specs. The one I've been playing a bit more of, though, which I've always thought very highly of, is Blade Sworn. Finally getting used to that. I haven't touched it since the betas, really, but this week I've been playing a bit. And I do really like Blade Sworn. Blade Sworn is, like, one of the best elite specs they've ever made. Basically, in my opinion, there's two good ones. Blade Sworn and this is even a controversial opinion because there's so many of them and it's so overpowered. But Mech, in terms of, like, raw, like, how the trait works, how the animations work, the concept, the theme, everything about it's actually really good. It's annoying because there's so many of them and people are probably a bit sick of it now, but yeah, Mech and Blade Sworn, I think on paper are definitely the best. The others are just a mess. They're just a mess. Including this.
It's over.
Like, I'm not even using the legend abilities here. Let's put it on, I guess.
I'm so sorry I left you to this fate.
Right, here we go. Mark in chat saying Blade Sworn's his favourite. Mark has been doing Harvest Temple with us, guys, the guy in chat right now, and he pulls such insane damage, it's unreal, on Blade Sworn.
That will take Suwon. And then all of Tyria. The Void.
The Void?
The force that emerged from the broken dragon cycle. Which, if not stopped, will unwind reality one thread at a time.
Care to tell us how it is you know all this? And what was the magic you used? Never seen anything like it.
I have. When Aurene shielded me against Balthazar's fire. Who are you, really?
You deserve the truth. Suwon said I could trust you, but I had to be sure.
Suwon?
It's interesting they say when Aurene shielded against Balthazar's fire. Was that such a standout moment that the commander remember? What about all the other times Aurene shielded us and done stuff? Didn't that happen in the Kralkatorrik fight too? Didn't she shield us at the end of Dragonstorm? Oh. Anyway, lovely moment. This was a mind blow for me. I genuinely didn't get Navan in the middle of the word as Kunavang. I just didn't get it. Really good. I think they played this all off brilliantly. And it was such a big question for me, what's going on with Kunavang and Suwon the whole way through the expansion as a Guild Wars 1 player. This is so good. This is like actually getting to meet Glint, you know?
Champion.
I am. It's been centuries since I revealed my true form. To a mortal. The last time... well... that mortal was a hero. Much like yourself. One who saved me from a terrible fate. Now time is short. But I'm sure you have questions.
And this was really good as well. They knew that players would be desperate to just ask stuff. So they cut the conversation quick. They let you get in there. I do have a bit of a niggle here. Oh god, I don't know how... There's a lot... I don't know, is it good, is it bad? So, like, Kunavang they've redesigned in this game. She doesn't sound like a bitter, weird old lady, right? Which is how she sounded in the first one. She's much prettier. You know, it's that Barbie thing, isn't it? Oh, let's make her really pretty and shiny and that, I think that's a really good decision for her, right? I think you want her to be, like, gorgeous and beautiful and frilly and, you know... you can imagine a little girl playing with this as a toy, right? It's very lovely, isn't it? I think, and rainbowy and shiny. We already have Aurene in that, like, place aesthetically. I think doing it with Kunavang's fine and a good idea too, even if it means changing what she was in Guild Wars 1, that's fine. And the voice as well, you know. She now has a lovely, you know, very feminine, youthful, sweet voice, right? That's fine, I get it. Since they did that with Kunavang, I think they shouldn't have done it with Suwon. I think Suwon, the deep sea dragon... progenitor of all... Yes, she did it to get rid of the Void, but ultimately progenitor of so much death and destruction. A character who's disconnected from the petty concerns of mortals, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Suwon needed to look the same. They did the same vibe for both. And we have Aurene in the picture. So basically, the end of this... Despite how edgy and interesting the Void kind of is, a lot of this is just like, I don't know, it's too... For me, I don't know, it's very girly and very like... There's something about a lot of the end of Dragons that just doesn't I don't attach to in any way. I wish the deep sea dragon, and I know that we might have this Kraken story later. There is an actual deep sea monster later. So the universe hasn't necessarily lost anything for having so much of this aesthetic. Maybe we'll get that later. And also, you know, they also, on paper, they have Suwon and also Void Suwon. So maybe the idea was they could have their cake and eat it too. They could have a really beautiful, flowing like water, elegant, lovely Suwon design. And then the Void one would be all fucked up. So they can have their cake and eat it too. But then the Void aesthetic is just this black goop, which really isn't that compelling to look at. So I don't know. We'll get to these later cutscenes, and I don't know. I don't gel with the vibe. I don't know why I'm so miserable and like miserly about it, but I really am. Anyway, so I like Kunavang's design. I just think there's a little bit of an overabundance of rainbows and glitter and sparkle and shininess with all the characters in this expansion. It's a very petty, aesthetic, BS, irrelevant critique, to be honest with you. But it is something that sort of dragged the expansion down a little bit for me. I don't know. I mean, it is so petty. It's so petty, I don't even need to say it, really, but there you go. Time is short, and the Void Creek continues to spread, but you need to know what we're up against, so I'll answer your questions if I can. So what exactly are the Void creatures?
The Void is raw magic. Chaos incarnate. In the beginning, everything was void. Then the Mother Dragon, Suwon, brought order, splitting the Void into 6 domains of magic. She could not maintain that order alone, so she took on the domain of water and gave the others to the 5 Elder Dragons. It was on that foundation that all material life on Tyria flourished.
So this is just, I mean, really, I don't know whether this is very clear to everyone, the magnitude of what they're revealing here, but this is genuinely like 15 years of storytelling. This is the question, what's it all about? You know, these are the big, big answers. And unfortunately, as I said in the previous part, I think POF and the story around that era needed to do a little bit more to set up the Void and make it connect. This is essentially End of Dragons Library of Cormyr scene, kind of. You know, where Cormyr was explaining, apparently, and we know that it didn't really work or connect under real scrutiny, but the you know, the Exodus of the Gods and what they've been up to and all that kind of stuff. This is the Elder Dragon story, and they're introducing a lot of stuff at once, which of course just begs more and more questions. Well, what made Suwon? Does Suwon have other relatives? What is Void versus Mist? You know, blah, 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 blah. And we don't get answers to any of that stuff. That might be being just a ridiculous picky lore nerd that you don't need to worry about. Maybe just chill and just enjoy the moment and the vibe of the scene. But yeah. So how are you able to take human form? This is not a very interesting question, really, is it? But there you go.
I'm not certain I can explain it. I become like water. And water can take many forms. We Salt Sprays taught ourselves many tricks over the years.
I believe there was a Salt Spray in Guild Wars 1 that did this.
Easy for us. But it is certainly useful.
It is a good question, actually.
When it's easier to protect, if you can blend in among those you're protecting. Live their lives. Ishan always said I was spending too much time in that form. Too much time away. But I learned more every day.
I mean, this is actually really excellent. On the surface of it, it looks very boring. But that is such a good response for a few reasons. Number one, what you guys who didn't play Guild Wars 1 need to understand is Guild Wars 1 is not a masterpiece, all right? It was a new universe they were building with no obligation to go anywhere. Unlike Guild Wars 2, which has been obligated to do dragons for years and years and years and has clearly wearied them. But, so Guild Wars 1 was just really cavalier about what it did. It just dumped stuff in. So when they did Cantha, you know, they did a lot of world building, really laid a great foundation. But they also did shit like, oh, we've got Salt Sprays, let's just have a random side quest where a Salt Spray looks like a human. I'm sure that was in Guild Wars 1. And that's like a huge thing to establish. It's like, well, hold on, if there's loads of Salt Sprays and they can look like humans, wouldn't that mean that there's just potentially loads of Salt Sprays around you and you wouldn't know it? Would that affect the culture in a big way? You know, it's a huge thing, this shapeshifter story. So they give us that response, and there she explains, well, it's hard for us. That little detail is really important to preserve the integrity of, like, this incredible move, right? So, oh, it's difficult for them, so that's why it hasn't affected the culture and you know, it's not this big deal, because it's rare for it to happen, because it's difficult for them or whatever. So that's cool. It kind of like cleans up something that Guild Wars 1 was very cavalier about, which often it was. You know, Guild Wars 1, the one I love thinking about for Guild Wars 1 is in Nightfall, there are some side quests where people are like getting visions of aeroplanes and televisions and shit. Like, I'm deadly serious. That doesn't even seem that bizarre anymore in End of Dragons, now that we have Jade Tech microwaves and stuff. And again, I don't really like that my medieval fantasy has gone in that direction, but hey. So, you know, they just kind of dump stuff in, so that's good. But why this is also a really good response is there is a theme in this story that unfortunately I think is too buried in the end. I've mentioned it many times, but this idea of, like, do you relate to the petty concerns of mortals? When you look at Anka's story, which we'll get more of in a minute, Anka's whole thing is, like, she doesn't want to just be a blip in a cosmic timescale. She becomes very nihilistic and stuff after her events in the mist, but she's a nihilist because she's like, well, fuck, what do I mean? I mean nothing. You know, there are millions of years of, like, this cyclical slaughter going on. There's nothing, you know, and when you realize how small you are, you know, that, like, cracks her mind to some extent. And that's a beautiful story, you know, a mortal struggling with its place in the world. I think on just a broader level, that's a really good story to tell now in the 21st century, 2022. 2023, because I think with the advent of I'm going way off track here, I'm being a fucking shitty lit nerd here, but like with the advent of the internet, I think everyone, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly am, I think everyone struggles with realizing, you know, there are 7 billion people on Earth. You can easily instantly access hundreds of thousands of people that are into everything you would ever, you know, people feel small. People's identity and place in the world is in crisis at the moment, I really think, because of the internet. And I think you see that identity crisis in manifest in any number of ways right now. I think that's why people today are obsessed with gender, because, you know, like, everyone's identity is in question because we are all so small, we're all struggling with that. And here you've got Anka who's struggling with that same thing. It's like, well, what the fuck, look at how vast everything is, and I'm just this little blip. And so she's struggling with that. Su-Won's the other side of the coin there, where she sees that the mortals are little blips and they don't matter. So Su-Won sort of just disconnects. She doesn't care anymore. There's this big debate between Kunavang and Su-Won whether they care about mortals. So Kunavang is the bridge. Kunavang is the character in the middle that, despite being a dragon, she still remains connected to mortals. She has this connection to mortals through her ability to shapeshift. The other big character like this was Glint. Glint was the offspring of Kraukatoric, but she ended up empathizing with mortals. Glint schemed to break the cycle. The reason for Glint's ability to do that was because she was an empath, because she was a telekinetic. She could get into people's minds. She understood the richness and the depth of the emotion and blah, blah, blah of mortals. So Glint had that power and therefore ended up trying to break the cycle. Kunavang has the power to appear as a mortal. Ashu, this other salt spray, saying you're doing that too much. This is weird. But that's why she's the bridge. So it's this really good story, to be honest, and it's very well plotted if you really think about it. There are great reasons why the fantasy powers of these characters, Glint and Kunavang alike, ended up changing their disposition towards mortals, and they, you know, and so Kunavang eventually petitioned to Su-Won, save these people from this tidal wave. Su-Won did that. Su-Won ended up consenting to go into the reactor with June. You know, it all comes from this shape-shifting ability. Now that is really cool, okay? That is coherent, and it works. The problem is, Guild Wars 2 gets fucking 10 seconds of dialogue to try and express all of that to you. And this whole big moral debate of, like, whether the lives of mortals matter on cosmic timescales and all that kind of shit. The genuinely really good, interesting story, there is a genuinely good, interesting story. Nobody's getting it, man. Nobody's getting it. It just flashes by in a second. You have to really stop and, you know, sort of book club talk about it, because it's just not delivered well, because there is not enough story. So once again, it just goes back to that criticism. If I want to see anything from the next expansion, we need, I don't know what it is that holds them back. I assume it's the voice acting thing. I might be wrong about that. Whatever it is, there needs to be more. And I'll tell you why Final Fantasy grabs people more. It's just on that ground. It's purely on that ground that when I go to play Endwalker in a month or two, whenever it is, when I go play, if you guys watch me play Endwalker, I don't even know what the content of that story is, but I know it will be better because I know that that game does more. It has more dialogue, it spends more time. And those themes, they actually get time to come through. It's not that they're incompetent writers or Guild Wars is actually trying to tell a bad story necessarily. I mean, I do think that they make mistakes on big ticket items. You know, this stuff is plotted out, it's there. So yeah, this line here, this sentence here, how are you able to take human form? That actually explains so much of all of this. But who the fuck's noticing that? Anyway, I like how that started with me complimenting this and then just whining. But hey, there you go. That's where my mind went. How was Suwon's containment helping?
The chamber that June built siphoned off Suwon's growing power and used it to fuel Cantha. You might have noticed that this technology has been unreliable lately. That was because the void was being siphoned off as well, but only into machines, thankfully. Now with Suwon unleashed, its tendrils are working out from her to wind their way through the rest of the world.
In chat, someone says they spend so long showing the relationships, then they don't focus on the deep story of the game. I know a lot of people feel that. I don't know where I am on that. On the one hand, one thing I hate discussing as just... Alright, I'm not in the industry, so I don't know, right? So there's this thing in video game critique of, like, substitution arguments. I don't know if that's terminology people use, but this is how I think of it. So a substitution argument is, oh, why did they add the Super Adventure Box when they could have added raids? Why did they add this when they could have added this, okay? And substitution arguments seem to make a lot of sense on the face of it, but quite often don't, because the talent responsible for one thing was not applicable to another thing, you know? A team... Well, why do they make gem store items instead of more story or whatever, right? Like, it's like, well, different people have different talents. There are different structures within corporations. You can't make a substitution argument half the time. Usually a substitution argument is born out of ignorance from people like me who are not in the industry. So I'm kind of leery about substitution arguments, but I think there kind of might be a valid one with End of Dragons, which is that, you know, I don't care about Casimir's and Marjorie's wedding. I don't care about Marjorie's sisters. I don't care. I'm really not that interested in that stuff. Maybe I should be. To me, it does not compel me, like, on any level. And when we get to the end of End of Dragons, you're going to see there's a huge amount of dialogue and story about that. So maybe you can make a substitution argument with End of Dragons. And this is where I think, where maybe when I talk about big ticket items, maybe they could have reined some of that stuff in to focus a bit more on Anka's dilemma and Suwon's dilemma and Kunavang, and maybe they could, maybe there is an emphasis issue. Maybe there is a substitution argument. We could say, well, look, they are more interested in one thing than the other, but it's a slippery slope, and I don't really like the conversation that much because we don't really know. You know, can I sit here and say they shouldn't have had Rama talk about his bowl of white rice? Should we have skipped that whole restaurant scene? Because I don't think that's true either. I do think you need a balance, and I do think you need to care about the characters. And if that's their story, that they're getting married, maybe I should be really invested in that. But I don't know. I mean, so it's difficult because it's like, what's my personal opinion and then what's like actual valid critique? Because I have to assume a lot of people are really excited about seeing a wedding. I don't know. I've just never cared about the soap opera-y stuff. I do like personal drama. I like Gorik's personal drama in this, and I like, you know... Again, I mean, there's the whole Minister Lee stuff as well, which we'll get to. There's a lot going on here. Anyway, all right, well, you spent so long in this instance. I need to know what we can do to help Suwon.
I don't know. She allowed herself to be contained because he was the only possible option. Without the stability provided by the other Elder Dragons, and with that containment chamber destroyed,
She'll be overwhelmed.
Would it help if we could find another way to siphon off some of that magic?
Using Anka's extractor.
yes, that might work. It would buy time, at least.
But it means we need to find Anka. Fast.
Because the other thing, right, there is a lot at the end of the game about, you know, Marjorie's sisters and all that kind of stuff, which I'm not into. But to be fair to them, there's a fuck ton about, like, the slaughter at Zendaijan and about, you know, the Celestial Blessing and about... There's a lot of stuff at the end that I do love as well, you know? There's, like, 5 giant side quests at the end of the game, and 4 of them I'm, like, super into. So is it a fair critique to say, oh, they did too much about the wedding? They didn't really, did they? They did, like, one scene at the Dead End Bar. So I don't know whether that's a very valid criticism. I do understand that you want to go out on a high note, and if you're dedicating the end of the story to some, you know, what's a good word here? Some crap that people don't care. If a good chunk of the community, I don't know, a majority, whatever. If you want to go on a high note, and if people aren't into the final scene, which is that dead end bar scene, then obviously that's not good. But who am I to say whether a lot of people didn't like that, you know? Or even if we have everyone in chat here saying, yeah, it sucked, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. There is always a problem, though, with, like, I think people don't like to be downers, so you can have a silent majority of discontent people. They won't say anything. They don't want to look hateful or negative. They'll just leave, right? And I think that happens a lot. You won't hear their opinions. They'll just leave because that's the more polite thing to do. The internet has this tendency to hive mind push negativity away and to the detriment of whatever. What are we talking about? Let's just play the game, man. What the fuck is wrong with me?
What Kunaveng had to say.
Yes? I have so many questions.
Questions we don't have time for now. We need to find Anka.
She didn't leave us much to work with at the reactor.
And the only Asuran troublemaker on Minsec's radar is standing right here in front of me.
Gorik, you know her better than any of us. Any insights into her personality that might help?
She successfully lured me into an incredibly obvious trap. It's fair to say I don't know her at all anymore. If I ever did.
Hello, Lady Navan? Or Kunavang, I should say. I wanted to tell you about Ishan. He fought it as long as he could. We're only alive because of him.
Thank you.
I overheard you all talking, and I think I might be able to help. I'm Ayumi, and I'm a member of the Kestrels, which means it's my job to know everything that's going on in Echovault. I need to escort these people to Mori Village, but we can talk when I get back.
So, Ayumi, this is kind of a cake and eat it too thing, right? Let's have this dark scene as though everyone's been slaughtered. And, oh, look, by the way, actually, no, everybody's fine. Oh, man, I'm getting all these extra portal scrolls that I don't need. Oh, wait, did it change? No, there it is. Getting Tales of Adventure, which is good. Ayumi is another tricky one in this expansion. I didn't think the Tengu really shone in this expansion. Ayumi's the only one that really gets a decent amount of dialogue or focus, and she's quite bland. There's something you need? Yeah, you said you're a Kurzik?
Half Kurzik, on my mother's side. Enough that I stand out as not Canthan enough for some people. Of course, I'm not Kurzik enough for some people either. Had to have a thick skin, especially growing up where I did. I was lucky, though. Minsec took a chance on me. Shouldn't have to be lucky to make it out of the slums, though. Shouldn't be any slums to begin with.
A little bit more analysis of, you know, societal and structural issues of the world, which this expansion does a lot of. Who was Ishan to you? That's new, isn't it? Wait. No, this is all new. Why were you disguised as a human?
It's my honor to look after the people of Cantha for Suwan. I discovered long ago that the best way to do that was from within, rather than without. Your kind need a sensible voice in your ears, more than you need a dragon on the mount. The Empress knew my real identity, as did her father before her, and his father before him.
You guys talking about Kos and Milani as a romance from Guild Wars 1? And like comparing it, I guess, to Casimir and Marjorie and saying one was intrusive and one wasn't? I don't know. I don't think that Marjorie and Casimir are intrusive. This expansion, yeah, they're the grand finale, and maybe in season 1 they were a bit, but I don't think it's fair to say for the vast majority of this game's story their relationship has been intrusive on any level. Most of this game's story, Casimir and Marjorie have been completely separated. They barely talk or do anything. And in fact, I think End of Dragons is quite good for their relationship in some ways. Like, they're kind of opt-in. There's a scene we're going to get in a minute where we can opt-in to eavesdropping on them, right? The final scene you don't get to opt-in on. That seems to be... I don't know. I think the final scene is the big egregious one for a lot of people, because having that at the end there is the final celebration, kind of like... There's like a certain telegraph there that you have to be into the idea of a wedding, because this is the big victory moment. And if you're not into the idea of a wedding, that whole scene just feels kind of like meh. Do you know what I mean? And like there's a certain element of that kind of makes it, that has ramifications for the entire story, I feel like. I don't know. We'll get to the end. There's a lot to talk about the end. It's funny. I'm Let's Playing this at the moment, and Tomb Raider, which likewise has an awful ending. Both ending their long-term stories. What did you mean about... It's weird, by the way. You can consider this as trilogy. Oh, no, you can't. Well, no, you can't. What do you mean about a terrible fate?
I was imprisoned by the assassin Shiro Tangachi. More than imprisoned.
See, they don't say this. They just say poisonous control. They don't say that was a manifestation of Void also.
His enemies. Until I was finally released by an alliance of heroes. Suwon offered me a new path. Inspired by the heroes who saved me, I became Suwon's representative in the mortal world.
I like this. This is clearly trying to speak to Guild Wars 1 players, suggest that they had a part in the bigger story. But you know, they could have left space for that. They could have gone into a bit more of an explanation and said, well, look, the humans at the Harvest Temple with their Dwayne Festival and stuff, yeah, there was god magic there, but they were really messing with the ley lines with that. And when the disaster happened with Shiro, there was, you know, there was a certain conflux of magic or something, and it was kind of like a brief manifestation of Void. It corrupted Shiro, it corrupted me, or I don't know. They could have done something. Even if it would be a little bit wonky, I'd rather they have tried to tie stuff to the past as best they could. Which is sort of what the library scene did, and I was quite polemic about that, so who knows. How long have you served Suwon?
I felt it when she woke. All those of the sea did. A presence powerful enough to drive back the shadows in the depths. But it was not until Zaitan that I sought her out. An act of desperation to save what was left of a land I loved. It takes effort for one like her to see you. We are but moments in her infinite life. I did not know if she would care. But she did. Somehow, she did. I became her champion. My bond with her is much like yours with Aureen. Or perhaps more like your friend Keith's. I feel her, but she doesn't control me. She's come to mean a lot to me. It was hard when she chose to put herself in Jun's machine. But even now, she's always taking the long view.
So this is the first little glimpse of something this expansion did, which I think the thing I like least about the story in this expansion, which is the idea we're going to be sympathetic to Suwon, that she's like a heroic character. I just don't see it. I just don't like the story. I don't think it's justified at all. But what they're doing really is they're hinting at stuff again. It's that conversation I had a second ago. She's always taking the long view. Somehow she did. Well, show me. Talk to me. Give me the content. Don't allude to the content. Let's see this stuff, you know? And it's just not there, really. So it's a fascinating concept for a story. That's always something I end up saying when I want to love something, but I don't so much. It was a good concept. What a cop-out. Who was Ishan to you? Oh, Ishan. Ishan was one of the few remaining Salt Spray dragons I call my friend. Many of us were imprisoned by Shiro together in the Harvest Temple. And this explains why they're all mad in the first game. Oh, it was a difficult experience. Many of us emerged with deep hurts that made it difficult to ever resume our free lives. Ishan was one of those at first. I'm sorry. When I found him, he was in a terrible place. I was almost forced to kill him to protect those he might hurt otherwise. But instead, he was inspired to live by my example, to be a protector, a good purpose. And that's how he died, protecting. It became his purpose, and it served him until the end. If Guild Wars 2 had a bonus mission pack style thing, I bet you'd get this Ishan story and, you know, the fall of Arborstone, you'd call it, or something, right? Okay, so there you go. So the expansion takes a very weird turn now because I already have the achievements done and the masteries done, and it's all account bound, So it's kind of breaks in an ugly way. I discovered this at Christmas. For example, Albax, the other salt spray, a cool quest and thing at the end of the game. Albax is already here. It's already tiered up. So it's a bit rough. Let's just hope that in 5 years, when you do a replay, you remember exactly the order of things.
As my bond deepened with Suwan, my colors followed. It's all I have left of her now.
So I like that line there as well, because they do justify a little bit, even in universe, why her colors change. I don't think they had to. You know, I'm not a stickler for Guild Wars 1 lore in terms of everything has to be consistent. I don't mind that oak hearts look different. I don't mind, you know, it's a new game. It's a new thing. They should be free to... Superficial shit, I don't care if they change it necessarily, as long as it's in service of something good. The only issue I would have superficially with the Kunavang change is that, you know, none of them feel like fun dragons. They don't feel like cool dragons. I want cool... If you're going to do a game about dragons, let's make them cool. Let's not have them all pretty, flowery, whatever. Anyway, here we go. Command quarters. I think this is the opt-in eavesdropping I was talking about. I still love this room.
He's so fixated on revenge.
The visuals around all of here are on point.
I worry about him too. But I'm keeping an eye on him. I'll make sure he doesn't do anything stupid.
So being disconnected from the game for the greater part of a year, coming back, my impression, my memories, by the way, of all the maps, my favourite map, my like, oh, which one was the Ekovald Wilds by far. It was not the Jade Sea that I was like salivating thinking about. It was not Saitang. It was not New Kaineng. Not to say they're bad, but these stained glass window rooms in Ekovald, they're what have resonated with me a year later. They're the thing that I'm like, that was really cool about End of Dragons, and I really liked the visuals. So if anyone ever asked me my favourite End of Dragons map, it has to be the Ekovald Wilds, I think, because that's the one that lingered with me the whole time. And again, it's not that the other ones are bad, but man, I thought this stuff was stunning, and I still do. I'm getting a bit more connected again now, so...
Hi, Commander. Did Kunavang have anything more to say about the Dragon Cycle?
Not yet. We're working hard to track down Anka right now.
Understood. We're busy over here, too.
Okay. So much to do, so little time. Can I help you with something, Commander? How are things going with June?
Ever since the reactor was destroyed, June's been trying to figure out how to fix it. And see what we built?
I did notice you look a little different.
Yes, Junlai has an entire medtech division. They make braces for conditions like mine. They're incredible. I feel almost no pain when I'm wearing them. I did a little tweaking to the design, added some extra functionality. June's gonna incorporate my changes into Junlai's next model.
That's an we might be about to hear a bunch more dialogue. I might not be able to go on a rant. No, I think we're okay. We're going to go to find Goric. Yeah, Timey's illness thing. She's not cured or anything. That storyline's still valid and will still probably go somewhere. The next Living World season, that's something to look out for, certainly. It does feel a bit hand-wavy that they just, you know, oh, there you go, she can walk around like normal now. But there you have it. If they do a really cool story where Jade Tech goes on the fritz and everyone that ever, like, utilized it is now at risk or vulnerable, that you could get a good story beat out of that with Timey, which is what I hope they're doing. So, wait, the second level we go outside and back up? Is that really it? Is that the situation? Technically there, by the way, we were still in the open world. I know it kind of feels like maybe we weren't, but we were. So here we get all the, you know... I don't actually know. Has it been reset? Oh! Is this not the antique summoning stone guy? Oh no, that's the strike entrance. Whatever. Yeah, over there, there's, you know, the vendors and stuff, which on my playthrough last year I didn't know about because I didn't have stuff maxed out. But if you want to make Aurine legendaries and stuff...
I'm going on a trip. I'm going to visit some long lost cousins in the domain of the winds.
Oh, that's where I'm going as well. Not to visit anyone in particular. Just see how other Tengu have gotten along.
That's neat. Maybe we'll see each other there.
I love that...
I'll be sure to say hello if we do.
I love the word fledgling for, like, young Tengu. A lot of... Arborstone was fantastic. There's just so much cool dialogue and interesting things going on here. It really was. I remember pre-release, they did a stream about Arborstone, and the devs, like, hosting it were, like, really keen and excited about it. And I remember watching it thinking, is it really the best thing ever? And it really is genuinely very good. I mean, some of these lines we hear over and over and over again, and they get a bit tedious or whatever. But generally, that's just an implementation wriggle. I am very impressed with Arborstone and just how much is in here. It genuinely did come through as a good bit of the expansion, I think. Of course, my incentive to walk around all these places after I've done the initial gamut of achievements is maybe a little bit more limited. Hello, Gorick.
Hey, I've been experimenting with this really interesting Canthan tech. It's an autonomously driven deconstructor. Breaks down complex items into their component parts.
So what are you working on here? Looks like some kind of Aether Blade tech.
The Kestrels found it in Echo Vault, beeping like crazy. I think it's one of those airship transponders Renyak damaged.
There's no way it's from one of ours. That outer shell is too new. Ours were old. Garbage.
No, it's definitely an Aether Blade transponder. Or was at some point. Only an Aether Blade would splice a wire with a used bandage.
I like that line.
The Aether Blade. Renyak could have fixed it up when he got here. I don't know.
Could it help us find Anka?
Maybe. Just need to triangulate the signal destination. You could do that, right?
Can I do it, he asks. We'll get it done, Commander.
Do you know what? I've kind of lost the plot a little bit here. Where did this come from?
Got a minute?
The Mist, was it?
A new report about Anka.
I've definitely lost the plot a bit here. I can't remember what this is all about. This is basically just some you know, busy work stuff to get us to find Anka. But the actual specifics of, like, what it, maybe I just need to pay more attention.
So, you're probably wondering what I'm doing here. I'm glad you asked. Except you didn't. I mean...
Commander, I know I should have checked first, but I thought since Ivan didn't have anywhere else to go...
No, of course, Ivan. Maybe you can help us track down Anka and the Aether Blades.
Right. Speaking of which, where is my captain? Is she with you? Is she... is she...
I'm sorry, Ivan.
Don't be sorry for Captain Trin. Be sorry for Anka. You're gonna get her, right?
I'll get her sooner if we're all working together.
Then I volunteer my services to your crew. If I think of anything that can help, I'll let you know.
I like Ivan a lot. I think he's going to be really interesting if they do stuff with him. I was actually looking at him there and thinking about his armor and stuff and thinking it would be cool to play as a dredge. There are no dredge combat tonics. Unless I missed one in End of Dragons. And then I started thinking what I should really do with this guy's combat tonic. Come on, why can't I see it? There it is. Whoops, not Jadebot. Novelties. No, not that one. This one. Big? Embiggening? Since we're a Norn, we should definitely use the Embiggening tonic. Now, when we use our orbital drop shot, boom, it's even cooler. Who would want a Norn like this jumping on you? Look at the greatsword. That greatsword now is bigger than most characters. Easily. Meet Rama and Ayumi. We have more side achievements that will be valid for in a minute. Oh, by the way, yeah, I just collected that Ascended piece. So what was it? It was a Kurzik brooch, right? So the brooch goes on our collection on the top here. Oh, wait, but it's there, I think, is the order that it goes in. So what we're actually missing here is we're missing one final piece now. One last mastery thing there in that slot. And then we're done. I might be missing something from the Icebreed Saga as well. I'm not too sure. I don't know what I'll spend my next laurels on. Something, hopefully. See, the problem with combat tonics, though, is there needs to just be some... This is the kind of thing I would have wanted to see this year. There are certain like little wriggles. Combat tonics are really cool. But since Path of Fire, they're shit. Because mounts disable them. And, you know, it's like that could have been worked out at any point since Path of Fire came out. It should disable the tonic, put you on the mount, and then immediately put you back on. You know, if I want to play as a Coden, right? Remember how cool this stuff was? Oh, you can play as a Coden now, guys. Awesome. Well, okay, I want to play as a Coden, but ever since Path of Fire came out, I can't really, because I get on a mount. I'm not even allowed to here. I have to manually turn it off, do that, and then come back on, and then manually... That should be automatic, you know? And it should be automatic through loading screens as well. They fixed that up with combat tonics. And look, that's a lot of really meaningful, cool rewards. They can start putting on world bosses and start putting in the end of strikes and start doing... They can do things. But, you know, it's just little stuff like that where it's like, I wish people in charge were playing the game enough to know little stuff like that, and then that would make the game so much better. There's just a lot of little things like that with Guild Wars. That's what that video series would be. It would, but can you get a whole video out of that? Not really, right? It would just be like, things I want to see in Guild Wars, combat tonics, and then just list out the quality of life the combat tonics need. That's the whole video. But would people accept, like, a 7-minute video? Would they? I feel like people wouldn't on my channel. I'd get a bunch of comments of people saying, hey, it's too short, you're lazy now, blah, and it's like...
Ideally without them knowing.
I've got Kestrels stationed outside each of their camps. Talk to them. They'll get you inside.
I'm gonna head for Mori Village, southeast Echovault. Meet me there when you're done.
For what it's worth, I think that Bit of Frost Frontier added a second version of this, didn't they? Hello, Rama. Got a lot of work to do if we're going to catch this Anka person. What do you need? Well, tell me about the Jade Brotherhood.
Scavengers. Think of themselves as heroes of the downtrodden, but all they're doing is lining their own pockets. They scoop up any discarded Jade tech they can get their hands on, and then sell it to people who don't know any better. Even their nameless scavenge for parts. They got nothing to do with the gang that went up against Ampha.
I like this idea that the Jade Brotherhood are totally different now, and it's just like a name for show. Ah, speaking of the name, there is the weirdest... I found the strangest dialogue in Dragon's End that I don't know if it's a joke or not. I really don't. It's like the most hilarious, ham-fisted... You know, there's like a lot of social commentary in End of Dragons. There is a line in Dragon's End, a conversation between two women, that I genuinely don't know if it's a joke or not. If it's sincere, it is some of the most ham-fisted, like, ridiculous dialogue that I've ever seen ArenaNet put in terms of, like, social commentary. It's two girls on a really long conversation all about how the Jade Brotherhood is a bad name because it's too masculine and they're girls and it should be the Jade Union or something. And, I mean, it must be a gag. Surely it's a gag. It's so... But I genuinely can't tell. Do you guys know the dialogue I'm talking about? I never caught that on my spring playthrough, but it's in there. I can't remember exactly where. Somewhere on the west of the map. And some of those lines I just don't know how to interpret. So yeah. Anyway, all right. Tell me. Sorry, I'm gonna get distracted reading chat. Tell me about the speakers gang.
Fanatics. Started off a well-intentioned, if quirky, bunch of environmental defenders. But over time, they went hardline, started opposing any kind of technological progress. Then a Warden Tetra Earth call took control, weaponized their good intentions. That's when they started enslaving spirits and bombing anyone they disagreed with.
See, this is all so cool too.
They're gonna become immortal forest spirits, like her.
I love this, like, the idea of the speakers as these, like, magical, spiritual, like, bombing terrorists. It's so cool. But again, okay, so we are now, if you think of the negative already, I mean, Jesus, we are now over the hill, I think, the peak over the hill. Well, that may be true as well. But we're past the peak of the expansion as far as I'm concerned now. The rest of the expansion goes very quick. There's a lot of really interesting subject material. There's stuff about the Jade Brotherhood, the speakers, all of that stuff. I think we could have had hours of fun content with. If already it was going too fast to properly explore its themes, it's going lightning speed from this point on. There are some highlights. The cinematics of the end of Anka are good, but basically everything's going to wrap up fast. This is the equivalent of POF after the Ellen Riverlands. You know, we've just come back to life after the Balthazar scene, which was the peak of that expansion. We're now rushing through the Desolation and 2 missions in Vabi and it's over, right? Remember that for POF? Exact same thing for End of Dragons, okay? It even lines up map-wise. So we're just going quick now and we're just getting to the finishing line, which is very disappointing. But, so yeah, there's so much cool stuff with the idea of the speakers and the Jade Brotherhood. Their story actually resolves in the meta event, which is always a weird, dicey thing with Guild Wars. Not necessarily bad, though, as long as players are conditioned to actually see and do the metas on their story playthroughs. How is it working alongside Ayumi?
The Kestrels. They're a force to be reckoned with. Wish I'd known about them sooner, honestly. Now that we're all on the same side, maybe we've actually got a chance to get ahead of Anka in the Void.
That's all, thanks. But yeah, that thing about those girls having that conversation in the Jade Sea, there's a chance it isn't... Like, it actually works as a kind of a funny, like, little joke if it's quick, right? But they go on and on about it like it's the most fascinating concept ever, right? But it does kind of work for the Jade Brotherhood when you think about this line here, where, you know, they've just scavenged the name. You know, it doesn't really mean anything to anything. I mean, anything's up for grabs, you know? And it is another one of these superficial things that they could change, you know, because this is not the Jade Brotherhood from the first game. It's not like there's history and there's, you know, precedent and so on with anything. It's just, fuck it. They've just scrounged it up. So here's a Yumi. It's crazy, man. I sort of wish there was a lot more with her. How will I get into the gang camps?
Sometimes we Kestrels go places...
This is where our optional achievements are.
Exactly invited. Our spies have had a lot of practice crafting Brotherhood and Speaker illusions. They'll make sure you blend in.
Any idea where the Aether Blades are hiding?
We've seen hints of them here and there. They're mobile, and they don't leave a lot of clues behind. We found that transponder, the one we gave to Gorik. Odd, though. Seems unlike them to leave that in the open.
Yeah, I can't remember. I genuinely can't remember. What is the thing with the transponder? Is it a trap we're falling into? I mean, I remember where we're going to go and what we did. I did do this at Winter, but beyond that... thank you for allowing us to stay here.
You're most welcome. I like to think of Arborstone as a big nest where everyone comes together. I want our hatchlings to be able to play here. Local merchants and businesses from far-off lands to work as one. We have big plans for this place. We're happy you're a part of them.
This conversation doesn't quite track after I've already built it all up, right? And done all of that. You said you're a member of the Kestrels?
Oh, yes. The Kestrels have been around since our ancestors fled to Echovald. A few Tengu made it their job to protect the others on their way, and voila! The Kestrels were born. It's always been a loose association, no formal leadership. Old Kestrels train new Kestrels, and so the order goes on. It's not actually a perfect system, if I'm being honest. Lately, well, a few things have really gotten out of control. Gangs moved in, and they've been pushing people around. Innocent people have died. I've been trying to get us to work together more, but, well, I'm pretty new at this. I'm not actually from Echovald, so no one takes me seriously.
Yeah, I don't know, though. I'm really keen to see what they do with this in the next season. Thank you, that's all. And whether they can get a lot more out of the speakers, the Jade Brother and Yumi. Wasn't there a line later on where they kind of suggest the conflict might resume? Which, by the way, would be an incredible mirror of exactly what happened there in Guild Wars 1, too. Guild Wars 1 also, let me phrase it that way. So, yeah, we're going to go and infiltrate their camps now. I don't think there's any other characters that we can get dialogue off of necessarily here. And I might end the part here, actually, because we've been going for 2 hours. And I shouldn't say this out loud, because I don't know whether I'm going to make it, but I kind of want to get a Final Fantasy video, FF6, because I haven't done one for ages now. I kind of want to get one of those done today. And I've got the Harvest Temple at 7. And I've got this other thing that I want to do. So, I don't know. Yeah, I think on the next part, we'll get our last 2 achievements. We'll infiltrate the Brotherhood and the Speakers. I don't know how I failed those achievements before, so I'm a bit nervous.
Did you ever
let's see what these guys say.
We did. In the Jade Sea. We're working with the local authorities to keep her from moving beyond Kantha.
They didn't trust us at first. They'd seen the news bulletins blaming Aureen for Thuwan's escape. Only took one fairly devastating skirmish with the Void to convince them it was worth believing we were on their side.
They've sent word to Xingzhe to send more forces. We can only hope their government listens. We can't let the Void spread to the rest of Tyria, and the Void follows wherever she goes.
I know. We've already experienced its effects here in Echovald firsthand. We're on Anka's trail now.
So yeah, we'll continue with that. We'll see the Majesty of Echovald, my favourite map. from this expansion. I don't actually know how many gorgeous places the main story takes you to. It's mostly side stuff. Oh, also, by the way, despite my obsession with the game, and, you know, going back through and getting old achievements and things that I missed, I still have not touched... Where is it? I actually don't even know where they put them. I would assume... Yeah, here you go. Fishing. I mean, there is so much... I really want to learn this. Apparently, did I mention this in a recent video? Apparently, there's some kind of fishing farm you can do. I've seen it when I go to do the pinatas, the choya stuff in the Crystal Desert. There's like some kind of farm where you can get like 40 gold an hour or something. Is that right? 40 gold an hour? But you have to do it like 4 hours straight or something. There's a fishing party thing where people actually, you know, just like they were talking about pre-release, where you get a bunch of people together and it boosts your power. Something about fishing in the desert is really good for money, and that's a whole thing I want to learn. I kind of want to do this. Someone said to me a few days ago, WP, will you do a 10-hour fishing stream? And I said, oh god, I really don't want to do that. They said, I'll donate for it. I kind of like the idea of people being able to donate to make me do things, because, you know, viewership is lower and Patreon, and it's all a bit stressful. So maybe, I don't know, if people really want to see that, maybe we can look into it. I don't know how fun it would be, though. That's what I'm a bit nervous about. But I think after we finish the Ender Dragon storyline here, I might because that was what I wanted to do in spring. I wanted to follow up with some fishing stuff. So maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I mean, how did this go for everyone? Cod swimming amongst mere minnows is the final thing, right? You've got to get every single one of these achievements. And each one is get all the fish in a map, okay? And there's like legendary fish, ascended fish... kind of a big reel you see here is for... So I don't know. Is it just for a title in the end? I don't know. But it's a big part of the expansion that I haven't done. A whole facet of the expansion I do not know about. So we'll see that. All right, anyway, there you go, guys. We actually didn't progress much story there, if you think about it. But we have been talking for 2 hours. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you've got any advice for me, if you want me to see... I've missed so many messages in the live chat today, it's unreal. Please leave them just as regular YouTube comments, because I'm constantly refreshing the regular YouTube comments. So if you've got any thoughts or feelings, let me know. You could also just message me on Discord. I've been incredibly active on the Spud Discord. There's a link in the description. If you want to put yourself forward as a sub or a fill for like our Harvest Temple stuff... I reckon we'll have it done in just a couple of days. Well, I don't know. Maybe there might be a whole other week of prog on it. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know how hard it will be. We have like 2 phases left to beat, so we'll see. But yeah, that's it. So thank you very much, guys. It's been a blast, and I hope to get more Guild Wars stuff coming up very soon. Thank you all. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon. If Final Fantasy VI isn't today, it'll be tomorrow, so I'll see you for that at the very latest. Cheers, everybody. Take care now. Bye-bye. Oh, somebody just donated €2. Hey, WP, when's the next Super Q&A? Good question. I don't know. Oh, God, we've got... we have Tomb Raider in the background there. That's... Oh, God, how do I even turn that off? There we go. Yeah, I don't know. That's usually a picture of Liz, not Lara. Yeah, I don't know when it will be. I have to look into the... I'm scared to sort that out because I'm sure that most support's evaporated and stuff, and I'm just a bit terrified of it. But we'll see. So, yes, I'll look into that. Thank you very much. See you guys next time.